Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Hello everyone and welcome live to Apex Racing TV for round 2 of the iRTES 2023 Team Championship here at the Fuji Speedway. My name is Andy Thompson. I'm joined by Owen Carroll for the next 4 hours with Samuli Kumo on the production team. We are currently into round 2, like I've said, and the calendar that's coming up is a very interesting one indeed. May the 21st we go to Le Mans, June the 25th we go to Twinwig Motegi, on July the 16th we go to Spa, and August the 13th the final round is Watkins Glen. But all the action is here today on April the 30th here at the Fuji International Speedway, and it's going to be an interesting race. They have added an extra class this season, the BMW LMDH car, which seems to be very popular on the iRacing, but it does have the staple GT3 cars and LMP2 cars. Owen, it's going to be an interesting race around here with the extremely fast BMW, the medium speed of the LMP2s, and then the GT3 cars thrown in the mix. It's going to be a war of attrition, what is round a very tricky track.
Yeah, for sure. Also, good evening, everyone. I hope you all are having a wonderful day. And yeah, it's going to be quite a difference with the speed differences of these cars. Of course, the LMP2 getting a little bit in the mix here and there with these slower classes as well. You know, the LMDH is coming out to the GT3s is such a big speed difference. It's kind of almost easy in a way to get past them. But the LMP2 is making it a bit more difficult for the LMDHs to make that move stick on GT3s. And, you know, passing LMP2s itself is going to be quite an issue in and of itself as well. So, yeah, very fun track, very fast track as well. So let's see what the guys can do out there today.
Yeah, it's pretty much got everything, this track. You've got the extremely long straight, a 1.475 kilometer start-finish straight that goes into a very open first sector, round turn 1 and 2, round the Coca-Cola corner, the third corner. But then it starts getting a little bit tricky when they come up to turn number 10, round the back end of the course. And it's a very tight and twisty circuit. Now, if you're going to catch up with the slower cars coming around that part of the track, mainly the GT3 cars, that's where we could see quite a lot of the action. And one of the corners to look out for is probably turn number 15. After the turn 4, there's a double left-hander apex coming around that corner, and I've seen quite a few cars spin off turn 15 because it's quite tight. In fact, we're just watching here Robert go around the corner in question. A very tricky corner before they open out onto turn 16 for the start-finish straight. So it's going to be an interesting part, and it's going to always come down to, again, about managing where you try and meet the traffic out on track. And I suppose that's the value added of having coaches out there for you to be able to say what's coming up on track.
Yeah, for sure. Again, these LMDHs, the front end, they're very, very difficult to get slowed down in the lower speed. Yeah, that little section, as you say, turn 15 is going to be very, very tricky for these LMDHs to navigate their way through and also navigate amongst LMP2s and GT3s as well. So I think it's going to be a little bit more difficult than the guys would imagine out there today with the multi-class. But yeah, of course, these cars thrive in these high-speed sections, as we see David come from turn 1 now, going into this really fast section with the ever so quick left-hander and then the ever so hanging right-hander as well. Is very comfortable in these cars for sure, but in GT3s it's not so much, and passing them in this car is going to be a challenge in itself as well.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have a look around the lap here from David's point of view as he comes around turn number 4, the 100R. Open corner coming down into the hairpin. It's going to be a low gear, first or second, before they start accelerating again through turn 8 and 9 through the 300R. So these cars are going to be getting onto the back of the LMP2s and LMP3s, and this is the start of the section I was on about, turn number 10, a very tricky right-hand corner before they start coming in to turn number 13. It's just got to really watch your speed around this part of the section. This is 14 coming into 15 here. Very tricky, and you can almost see David there fighting with the wheel to just keep it. It's sort of like a little bit off camber before coming around turn number 16, and these cars will certainly stretch your leg down this start-finish straight. So that's sort of a brief eye view from the LMDH car around there. So GT3s will be a lot slower, but it's still just as tricky for them. So the way the session's going to work, the qualifying is 15 minutes long. The drivers get 3 laps each. It's closed qualifying, and then they're all gridded up relevant to the class. So we can start to see the times coming in now at the moment. Penguin RC Simulation at the top of the grid with a 123.11 with Obsidian Racing Future behind by 5/10 of a second, with Static Adrenaline in third. In the LMP2s, you've got Blue Shell Shield just been pipped there by 8/10 of a second, so a great lap there from 100 Force, doing a 126.3. In the GT3 class, Can-Am Racing currently leads out the pole position with a 135.34, but only 1/10 of a second ahead of marginally above average sim races. You've got to love some of the names here, and we're just watching on board with Chris Hudson from his sim. You can sort of see him there leaning into the corners, trying to get that Lamborghini turned in. It's going to be a tricky track for this Lambo, this track. There's certainly the car choice in them GT3 categories is going to be all important, but looking at the way they've got the calendar set up, Owen, it doesn't favour one type of GT3 car, so you've got to try to pick the all-rounder or pick the selective rounds you want to be good at, I suppose.
Yeah, for sure. Again, these listed GT3s that the guys have picked in this series are pretty much, as you say, the all-round cars that you'd like to do right here as well. So the Lamborghini will probably be a bit favoured, has a bit more of a twitchy front end, so it can navigate this final sector really well. But somewhere like Watkins Glen, where it has, like, ever so flowing fast corners, is not going to do as well. So yeah, as you say, picking all-round cars is going to be very key. But I feel like the pick today will probably be the Lamborghini or the Audi, as the twitchy front end nature of these cars is going to be quite effective for most of these corners here.
Yeah, it definitely is. But I think one of the cars for choice to be watch out, certainly in that GT3 class, will be the BMW. It's for me this season. It is the all-round car to be able to drive on there. I've seen them taking a lot of the corners around here, so I'm expecting the BMWs to be favouring strong. The Audis are quite quick, but it's a very twitchy car. The Ferrari, I'm not sure we've got any Ferraris in the field, but certainly Lamborghinis. The Porsches, the all-round car that everyone's used to, but it's not very good on circuits with high curbs, whereas the BMW sort of comes into play a lot more. The Mercedes could be a dark horse in this race for sure. It's certainly got the flat line, straight line speed, but it's not known for going around corners. But I've seen a race around here where the Mercedes did exceptionally well, and it depends how they drive the car out there. And with the addition now of the tyre choices and the tyre wear simulation that iRacing have put in, it's certainly going to be interesting to see what are the strategies from the cars. Are they going to change all 4 tyres, just change 2? But I suppose with the longer stints that these guys are going to be doing, it sort of makes sense to change the 4 cars. But from the LMP2s and the LMDH, Owen, you're probably the one to tell us how they're going to play that tyre strategy.
Yeah, for sure. Of course, you want to save your tyres a lot throughout this initial stint in the race, you know, especially for that last sector for the prototypes. You're going to be leaning on the tyres so much rather than making downforce of the car itself. So saving these tyres is going to be very efficient for your almost second wind in a way at the very end of the stint, which can be very useful if you're trying to attack your opponents right into the pit lane. But yeah, of course, you want to take tyres, pretty much all of them, in the stops today. But yeah, for sure, saving the tyres throughout the stint itself is going to be really crucial to gain that second win and really building that gap towards the very end of your stint.
Yeah, it definitely is. And as we can see, just getting into midway into this qualifying session, but the drivers do only have 3 flying laps to get the timing in. So you probably see around about 8-9 minutes, all the cars would have been out and there'd be no cars on track. But that gives us an opportunity to look at the points. But at the moment, Obsidian Racing Future heads out the LMDH field at the top of the grid. In fact, let's have a look at the championship standing now. So after 1 round, Satellite Racing Gemini currently lead the way. Our 2-season champions in the LMP2 have moved up to the LMDH and certainly starting off on winning ways there in first place. RD Sim Sports in second with Penguin RC Simulation in third. They started on pole position last time out in Daytona. Obsidian Racing Future started second last time out. Currently down there in fourth place. In fifth place, Champion Motorsport Pro, Pneumatic Motorsports in 6th place. We2 Fast Racing in 7th. SimHQ Motorsport Orange in 8th with RD Sim Sports 2 in 9th. 2Pi Racing Team Leg Down Racing there in 10th. Static Adrenaline Racing in 11th. The organisation, what a great name there, in P12, and the organisation pros are still yet to score any points there in the LMDH. Let's have a look at the LMP2s then. So we've got Tempest Sim Sports, $11 up there in 35 points with 100 force out there. But Sim Sports did get pole position out in Daytona last time out, and obviously led from there to finish the race in first. 100 Force was further down the grid, but made up some places in Daytona, managed to finish second. Longhorn Racing 2 in third. Sim Racing HQ Motorsport Red in 4th place with Blue Shell Racing in 5th. Sim Republic in 6th. The organisation Pro Am in 24th, and the organisation Amateur there in 8th place. Still to score some points, and then probably down to the competitive field, the GT3 cars. The RD Sim Sport 4 heading the way on 35. Started out in pole in Daytona, finished in first. Tempest Sim Sport, $101. We'll have to find out what them dollars mean actually. In second place there. 2Pi Racing in third. Sim Racing PR in 4th with Back Pain and Eye Strain Racing. I think that's what we all feel like at the end of long endurance races in 5th. In 6th, Penguin RC Simulation 7, Imperial Motorsports. 8th is Dog Bear Black. In 9th, Team Break Fade. 10th, Can-Am Racing. Above Average Sim Racers in 11th. Valhalla Motorsports in 12th. CMSRacing.com Ghosts in 13th with Flying Lion Racing in 14th. Longhorn Racing in 15th. Wild Douche Racecraft in 16th with 2 Bros in 17th. And in 18th, we've got SMS Racing. 19th, we've got Sim Republic SR2. And in 20th, we've got Podsy Racing Team with the last but not least, Sim Republic yet to score some points with Podsy. So 21 car GT3 field. So there's about 21 GT3 cars, around about 10 LMDHs, 10 LMP2, and certainly very early on the point stages there, Owen, but it's always a good indication to see who are going to be the front runners in each of the class throughout the remaining rounds in the season.
Yeah, for sure. And as you said with the class, the class sizes there as well, GT3 having the most by a substantial margin as well. And as we can see with the times, it's quite close, or a lot closer than the rest of the classes out there as well. So I think that's going to be our closest race today with the most amount of cars in that class as well. But yeah, interesting to see how these guys so they can get on and either extend their lead or extend their points what they have at the minute. And let's see if that order swaps around by a substantial margin or stays the same.
Yeah, it definitely is. And LMDH at the moment, we've got Obsidian Racing Future still on the top of the pile. I don't know if we have got, yes, we do have Archie Conley there in RD Sim Sports trying to make up some positions. Currently sat in 9th place. Just having a look at some if he's going to improve as he comes across the start-finish line. Is he going to move up or is he going to stay in that 9th position? 2.8 seconds off. Yes, a great lap for him. He moves up to 3rd overall behind the sister team, looks like the RD Sim Sports 2. So 2nd and 3rd on the grid is the RD Sim Sports in the LMDH and Penguin RC Simulation LMDH, who did get pole position out in Daytona, currently down in 4th place. In LMP2, we got Tempest Sim Sports setting off the stall where they left out last time in the pole position in Daytona and doing it again in the LMP2. Only 0.2 of a second against 100 force with Sim HQ Motorsport Red in 3rd. GT3 cars, we got RD Sim Sport 4 heading out the field at the 6,000ths of a second ahead of Tempest Sim Sport, so super close on track with Sim Racing PR in 3rd place by 600ths of a second, so extremely close by the top 3 in the GT3 cars. And it's good to see they're different, and like I said, you can see the top of the pile is that BMW. I'm expecting big things out of it, but I'm pretty sure the Lambos and the Audis will try and have something to say in this 3-hour race that's coming up. So it's going to be interesting out on track. And just to give you a little bit of a flavour for the first lap, this championship has what's called an orange zone, so it's for drivers to be cautious on the start finish. There's many a series we've seen where there's absolute carnage coming into the first corners, so it's going to be interesting to be able to see. But we see there LMDH RD Sim Sports jumps to the top of the pile, 700ths of a second on his final flying lap to be able to get to the top of the LMDH. I think, as we see Thomas there getting a little bit squirrely coming around that very technical section. That was turn number 14 that was mentioned earlier on. I'm pretty sure we're going to see a lot of the cars though in coming around that corner and doing exactly that, twitching back end, hitting them sausage curbs, and I'm expecting quite a few of the drivers to be spinning.
Yeah, for sure. Especially in this LMDH, you know, as well, the electric energy that comes from the rear end of it as well, that powers the rear end of the car, is going to be kicking in, especially throughout that last, that last corner to give you all the energy down the straight. But yeah, coming out that corner is going to be very twitchy. It's interesting to see how the drivers kind of react to it during the race and if they can manage it. You know, if you manage it well, you can manage the rear tires. And again, as I said previously, if you can manage the rear tires, you have a better second wind at the very end of your stint, as we see Thomas do a grand finale into the wall there. But yeah, great lap by RD Sinsport right at the end there to take pole position by just almost 10th of a second. Yeah, going into the 121s there. Very good from them guys. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the race. It's going to be quite interesting.
Yeah, it definitely is. There is Obsidian Racing Future right at the end there, nicks it back off RD Sim Sports too. So yeah, Obsidian really on the pace here today around Fuji. It's gonna, like I said, it's gonna be an interesting race. You know, the first couple of laps or the first stint, the drivers are not going to be interacting that much. It's going to probably take about 3 or 4 laps for the LMDH cars to catch up to the GT3 cars, but then after the sort of first stint, certainly all the cars will be mixed up out on track. We can sort of see the track temperature, 88 degrees Fahrenheit, so not too bad on track for the cars, but I'm pretty sure that is going to get hotter as the day goes on. We're currently at 3 o'clock in the afternoon in sim time, so it may get a little bit hotter and then start dying down maybe for the last hour, so the teams are going to have to contend with that. But obviously, like I was saying at the start, this league has an orange zone. It's from the start finish line all the way to turn number 7, so that's where the drivers have got to be cautious and been told to be cautious on that first lap to be able to let the gaps unfold and then be able to make sure that the cars which will have cold tires don't make any silly lunging mistakes. So a good addition that the team does have out on track. So that is over for the qualifying, and in the LMDH we've got RD Sim Sports on pole position with Obsidian Racing Future in 2nd, RD Sim Sport 2 in 3rd place with Penguin RC Simulation there in 4th. In 5th place we've got We2 Fast Racing with Sim HQ Motorsports Orange in 6th place. In 7th place we have Pneumatic Motorsports. With 8th place, we got Static Adrenaline. 9th place, we got SimRacing.com Pro. And in 10th place, we got the Organization Pro. Into the LMP2 class, we got Tempest SimSport on pole position with 100 Force in 2nd. SimHQ Motorsports Red in 3rd. Long Haul Racing 2 in 4th. SimRD 3 in 5th position with the Organization Pro Ams in 6th. In 7th place, we got Sim Republic SR3, and in 8th place, we got Blue Shell Racing with 9th place, the Organization Amateur Drivers. There, rounding out your field in your LMD2. Over to the GT3s, we have RD SimSport 4 with Tempest SimSport alongside them in 2nd place. In 3rd place, we got Sim Racing PR, and in 4th place, we got Imperial Motorsports with Can-Am Racing in 5th, with 2Pi Racing behind him in 6th. In 7th place, we got marginally above average racers. In 8th place, we got Penguin RC Simulation. In 9th, we got Valhalla Motorsports with 10th place Team Break Fade. In 11th, we got CMS.com Ghosts. With 12th, we got Back Pain and Eye Strain Racing. In 13th, we got Sim Republic. With 14th, Flying Lion SG, and 15th we got Long Haul Racing, with 16th to Bros Motorsport, and 17th we got the Organization, and rounding out your field of 18 GT3 cars is Wild Juice Racecraft. As we watch the cars going around on their warm-up lap here, followed by the safety cars. The cars will have a gap of around about 5 seconds between each of the classes to allow for any of them lap 1 incidents out on track. Always a good addition to make the racing as clean as possible out on track. But should be an interesting race, Owen, and it's going to be coming down to tyre management and where the cars pass. The faster cars pass the slower cars, and also for the slower cars to be aware and the spatial awareness of the faster cars coming around them. So it's going to be interesting as we come here with the LMDHs coming around the start of the end corner to start the race here, all under the ownership of the RD SimSports team, taking it as late as possible up to the line, waiting for that safety car in front to just fly off at an obscene angle. There it goes. But we get the race underway under the direction of RD SimSports. So when is he going to go? Is he going to go all the way to the end? Has he does a little bit of a blink there? He's literally going to go all the way to the start-finish line here, just backing up the field. And watch him, there he goes, gets the slingshot there. What a great start there from RD SimSport. Australian Racing Future and RD SimSports 2 just left in the wake at the moment. I suppose that's the ownership of being on pole position. You can actually try and get that little slingshot there as RD SimSports just goes down the inside, taking Obsidian Racing Future position off there. So Obsidian Racing Future just managing to lose that 1 place at the starts as we look back at the LMP2, all under Tempest SimSports at the start finish again, doing super slow right up to the start finish line here, and he goes as a little bit of a gap, around about 0.2 of a second of a second place 100 Force here on the start finish line with SimHQ Motorsports Red as they all jostle for position here, coming down into the very tricky first corner, the first right-hander, or sort of abreast there as we're watching the team from the Organisation Pro Am making a move there earlier on as we move back to the GT3 cars who have already started. RD SimSport 4 managing to lead the way from Tempest SimSports with Imperial Motorsport in 3rd place. So as we said, that protected zone up to turn number 7 should give the drivers the opportunity for all drivers to get through cleanly within that section, as we've seen no incidents at the moment out on track. So a relatively tame first lap before the racing really gets underway, and then we start seeing the lunges down into corners around the track to try and get the positions. But looking at the moment, Imperial Motorsports there, but we'll go back up to the front with RD SimSports. Has a tiny gap there, near enough a second over the teammate of the RD SimSport 2 team. So it's always good there, Owen, to have your teammates behind you to give you a little bit of an opportunity to make that break.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure Peter will be, really parking the car as much as he can to not allow Christopher in the Obsidian Racing car to get too close behind him. But yeah, as he goes wide there, probably that's through the Obsidian car, has to go around the outside. Does he have a good lunge or the exit? Yeah, he does indeed. Tries to keep ahead of the Obsidian Racing car. But yeah, as you were saying, good to have your teammate right behind you to not allow the Obsidian car to get through. And as we're speaking about it, Here comes the Brazilian car. Doesn't want to get too feisty into this corner here. Again, if this was the chicane, a big lunge would be happening right there, I think. But yeah, the very fast-flowing turn 10 doesn't allow that to happen. But yeah, as we see an incident with Ryan Smith and another LMP2 there at the back end. The organisation amateur car round at turn 1. Not really sure what happened there. As we see a replay. Yeah, it's a shame by them to have an instance so early on. With a good start to the race. Here we have a look. Can't really see it as Ryan blinks away. Yeah, I can't see it on my end. I don't know about you, Andy. But
yeah, it was just a turn coming down into turn number 1. Literally the tyres, I think that was turn number 1 anyway, coming down there and literally just spun the car out. So Ryan Smith from the organisation Amateurs has got it all to do now. You can see that he's still ahead of the GT3 cars, so has got a clear track in front of him to be able to make the opportunity and try to get onto the back end of the pack. But you can see by the track map in the top right hand corner does have a little bit of way just ahead of what we're currently watching here. Steve Mello in the RD Sim Sport 14 heading the way 1.2 seconds ahead of Tempest Sim Sports there in the Audi car. So a little bit of a gap producing at the moment at the top, but nothing substantial. And it's all going to be about these opening rounds, certainly in these 3-hour endurance races, is just making sure you get your lines nice and clean. Don't overextend them tyres to be able to make sure you hand over to the next driver in a good position with no damage on the core. Still there, and talking about not having the best one, there's Billy there in Two Bros Motorsports. Currently having a spin. Oh, he literally came across there and nearly got contacted by the leader in the LMDH. That was a close one. That would have been a heart-stopping moment there for the RD Sim Sports, because I'm not sure about these cars, Owen. Are they as fragile as the LMP2s are?
Oh yes, for sure. These cars in the new damage model are extremely sensitive to hits, especially on the rear end suspension. Even with a little tap, it could be your race done. So hopefully that doesn't seem to be too much damage on the RD Sim Sport car there in the lead so far. But yeah, that was an interesting hit there. The rejoin as he goes down the inside of the 2 GT3s there. Very adventurous move there by actually, but wants to get a move on here, which is very crucial in this types of tracks to try and have a really good traffic management and try and get yourself away from the rear pack as much as you can with the traffic. So he's done a good job there to escape most of them at the high-speed sections. But yeah, these cars are excruciatingly fragile. Don't know if that's a word, but it's very, very fragile to damage on these cars for sure.
Yeah, so you've got to watch out. It made great work then of the GT3 cars coming around turn number 1. You can sort of see the gap that he's actually made out in the track map in the top right there. Has got a bit of a lead, but he is now coming up against probably the tricky part of the section here, and has really got to pay and make sure the GT3 cars play a little bit of service to him when he tries to dive down the inside as they come around here. Turn number 15, that treacherous, and you can see the steering wheel there. That's what I'm on about. That corner is absolutely treacherous, and when the tyre wear gets a little bit more excessive, that's where we're going to start seeing a lot of issues there, as you can sort of see. And this is what really carves up the field as we look back with Pneumatic Motorsport Blue there in 7th, getting caught up into the mid-pack of the GT3 cars. This is where you sort of see the LMDH field just get splintered apart, because the LMDHs have got to try to navigate around the a lot slower GT3 cars, and you can sort of see the top of the tower at the moment, 1.7 seconds from first to second, and then Obsidian Racing Future 3.2 seconds behind RD Sim Sport 2. So that little bit of traffic there of the GT3, the first pass of the GT3, has produced some sizable gap in the LMDH class fields. But you get some luck, I suppose, Owen, and then you can also get some really bad luck where you manage to gain a decent sizable lead, and all of a sudden you can just lose it.
Oh yeah, for sure. I've had my fair share of that in many races before, but yeah, if you have a moment where you catch the cars at the very wrong time, especially into that end section lap there, it can be really, really, really annoying, because you have so much speed in the car. You want to get up to the guys ahead of you as quick as you can, but you just can't find a way around the GT3s. So that's why traffic management and picking your moves, is very, very crucial in this car to put the gap, as the RD Sim Sport car in front has had now with a 3.3 second lead through the traffic. So yeah, very good job by RD Sim Sport to pick his way through the traffic there. And yeah, it's what you need in this car to be quick in these endurance races.
Definitely doing. You're holding a bit of faith that the cars around you can give you space. We're currently watching Two-Pie Racing team there in 4th place at the moment, up 2 places from where they started, so a great start for them in that 4th position. The car behind him, Sim Racing PR, who's having a bit of a fight here, going down into turn number 1. He is currently down 1, maybe 2 places, depending if 2Pi Racing can make the move down. But he does have that inside line here into turn 1, but then we'll have the outside line. But manages to keep that place ahead, but certainly racy between himself, Miguel, and Jose Ramirez behind in the 2Pi Racing team. So those two having an early battle, as we see the 2Pi Racing team just getting a little bit off track there, which will give the opportunity again to the 2Pi Racing team behind to make that move on the Sim Racing PR team, currently in 4th place. So no advantages of cars. Obviously they do have their own setups that they can use to make the car to their own specification, but certainly the power of the cars is very similar. But we're watching here on the Penguin RC Simulation, driven by Cody Cosgrove at the moment in P6, up 2 positions again in class. So a great start to the race. Only 8 minutes into this, 6 laps completed at the moment, so very early days in this 3-hour endurance race, and I'm pretty sure that that's the majority of the LMDH cars that have got through the thing. Oh, as we see Cody Cosgrove there, commentator cursed him and has a little bit of a spin, and will find himself back down the field going through the racing line there. Gonna have to watch his way he gets back on. Let's have a look at see what happened to Cody. I think that is the first victim of turn number 15. Literally gets it out, hits the curb, spins it out. Luckily no damage on that car, so able to rejoin the race, but has lost a few positions from 6th place down to 12th.
Yeah, for sure. His tyres going to be screaming after that one as well. Just spinning these rear tyres up, and the forward tyres in general will really damage your tyre wear for sure. But Cody's not letting that get to him too much. He's making a move there on the 218 Porsche car there. But yeah, it's not going to be the best for him there with his tyres screaming out for help, but surely he can manage that with a bit of work for his car. But yeah, no damage, and he continues.
Definitely is. Just looking at our YouTube chat, and a big thank you for everyone joining us in there. If you got any message or whatever, just put them in the chat and we'll try to get them out. You can see Dave Anderson's been very busy on the YouTube channel, asking if any of us have been to Fuji, and I think I agree with Samuli. It's a little bit far away, but I bet the views are absolutely spectacular with Mount Fuji in the background around this track, and it certainly seems an interesting one to go and watch an endurance race around. You know, it has pretty much everything. It's got them long straights and the open expansive bit, the first section. Then it comes into the middle section, which starts getting, it almost like ramps up the difficulty around here, and then you get in the very treacherous 3rd section from turn number 10 all the way to turn 16. So it's certainly it would be a spectacle of a track to go and view, and if that's an offer of taking us over there, David, I'll gladly accept. I'm sure Owen and Samuli will join us there. But joined back up with the battle for 7th place with Pneumatic Motorsports, currently trying to hold off CMSRacing.com Pro Team behind there. These two are having a great battle for 6th and 7th in class. You can sort of see the timings already sort of stretching out, even in this early stage of the race. Only 10 minutes in, 8 laps done, and we can sort of see the gaps there from the team that we're watching. 18 seconds up the road to the next pair of LMDH cars. So these two are pretty much going to be locked together for quite a while, jostling for that 7th place position. But you can sort of see the timing tower there. The close battles are for 2nd and 3rd overall. The City Racing just behind, and the current battle we're watching at the moment, 7/10 of a second, CMSRacing.com Pro Team just behind the Pneumatic Motorsport Blue. But then you got the gaps starting to appear in there, and that is all down to that GT3 class and trying to get past the cars, because if you get caught up on the wrong part of the section, certainly coming into turn 13 behind a lot of GT3 cars, that's where you're going to lose a lot of time in these BMW LMDH cars. Extremely fast on track to be able to do. And now we can sort of see, we're looking at the LMP2 cars who have caught the GT3 cars, so they're pretty much going to see the same effect now into the GT3 class. We can see the gap between 1st and 2nd currently at 3.5 seconds, and then from 3rd, 4th and 5th all extremely close. In fact, from 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th all close in a close battle with Tempest SimSport, Imperial Motorsport, Sim Racing PR, and 2Pi Racing there in the GT3 cars. So they're all extremely close together, but the LMP GT2 cars, you've got to navigate around these GT3, and I suppose if you're in one of these super fast cars, you really want to be getting them down the start-finish straight or around this first section of track, and you can sort of see on the timing tower the heavily embroiled the LMP2 field in the back end of the GT3. Coming down here into turn number 1, we've literally got 3/4 of that GT3 field to try and navigate, and I'm pretty sure they're going to catch them in probably the worst place that you could catch these cars at, these front runners.
Yeah, for sure. It'd be a very good move there from Evergrass in the organisation for Car ahead to catch him on the main straight there, because then he gets to side the line through the traffic here. So as you can see, already got one of the Audis down into the hairpin there. So yeah, very good early move there to get them on the straight. And again, as you said, you want to get these cars on the straight because it really helped the organisation for Ram to get that extra straight line speed that he needed to get past the SimHQ Motorsports red car. And yeah, as you can see there, he's extended his lead by getting the traffic at the right place at the right time. So being in front of the traffic is going to be very crucial here as well.
Yeah, it is. And being that it's a relatively short track compared to some of the other rounds within the season, obviously we went to Daytona, extremely large, expansive track with lots of passing opportunities. You come to this one, which it looks like the rounds, if I look at the rounds, we go down and we can sort of see a fast open track followed by a technical track followed by a fast track. So we've got Fuji here today, which is going to be a technical and a war attrition for the LM, in fact all the field to be fair. And then we go for the next round into Lamar, which is an extremely long track. It's going to be very, and there's still be quite a few overtake moves by the LMDH, but nowhere near the amount that they're going to be overtaking the GT3 field here today. Then we go to Twin Motegi, which is another quite tight technical track before they go on to Spa and the ever expansive Spa. So it's before they finally finish at Watkins Glen, like you mentioned at the start, a fast flowing circuit to finish off. Watkins probably my favourite track, but again, it's another technical track. So I like what the organisers have done of this round is make it like almost like a slipstream race followed by a technical race to really challenge the drivers.
Yeah, and for sure they're both different in their own homes as well, with the endurance nature of the cars as well. You know, saving fuel, especially around these fast flowing circuits that are coming up, is going to be very, very key. Because that can gain you so much lap time and so much of an advantage in the pit stops as well. Not as much as the technical tracks there, it's more about how quick you are actually around the track and around the traffic as well. But yeah, for sure they're going to be both different challenges in their own way, but still the same kind of race itself, as you can see in Fuji as well. Getting past these slower class cars is very crucial to your position, as we saw with the LMDH at the front. iRTES Sport had a really, really efficient and fast traffic run at the very beginning, which allowed them to get a massive, massive lead. As we see, the iRTES Sport leading car coming back through. Lost a little bit of time, commentator skirts again through the traffic there, but yeah, from the initial traffic lap that he had, it was very, very beneficial, and just giving that lead that he needs to sit kind of more comfortably now than he was before.
Yeah, you can see the gaps now starting to really appear in that LMDH grid. 2.7 from first to second, 3.3 from second to third, 6.8 from third to fourth. So the top three in the LMDH starting to pull away from the rest of the field. Then it's 9 seconds back, 15, 16, 20, 30. So that LMDH field has certainly been spread out in this early pack. Only 12 laps gone, 15 minutes into a 3-hour race. So it's going to be a little bit frustrating, and they've really got to try and keep their nerve to not try and make a silly mistake or a silly passing opportunity. Just let it come to them where the opportunities arise. Don't try and force something, because that could be certainly a race ender. You know, there's going to be that opportunities to be able to get that time back in this race, and it's all about the traffic management and how you do it. Not be over aggressive, be as obvious as you can there, as we watch a city in racing future, getting caught up behind. Who is that? Is that the second place? That is RD SimSport 2 on track. So Obsidian completely not listening to what I'm probably saying and being super racy with the RD SimSport 2 team to be able to try and make that passing opportunity. But nearly came a cropper there coming into the tight section of 13, 14 and 15.
Yeah, for sure. And then Obsidian, what's going to be on the City Race's mind is keeping that, that ERS, that energy deployment really, really well covered. Because, you know, if you're if you're using it too much and not really saving much behind the traffic, then you're going to have a really bad run down the straight. So yeah, making sure that you're saving a lot of that energy behind traffic is going to be really crucial as well. So as you said as well, being less aggressive through traffic in LMDH can be a benefit because, saving that energy down the main straight can really benefit you in terms of getting the guy ahead of you and having way more speed down the straight.
I mean, obviously, you are very much heavily involved in these LMDH cars. I'm very much a newbie as we watch Static Adrenaline coming in for what seems like a very early stop for him, so must have some damage on that car. So maybe the first victim of all that back traffic that Static Adrenaline are having to try and get through in that LMDH car. So coming in for an early pit stop here, but it could be a part of the tactic. This is a 3-hour endurance race. Some cars will pit slightly earlier to get off the train of the standard pit stop timing. So really mixing it up, and it can be beneficial. Stopped a little bit early before getting into his place and going up onto the jacks to get his tyres done. So an early stop there for the Static Adrenaline team, and it's got to be for some damage, because I wouldn't imagine you would want to hit this early into this.
No, for sure. I mean, the fuel lasts roughly around about 45 minutes at the very most, so yeah, pitting this early is definitely not going to get you in the race comfortably at least. So yeah, it's an interesting first stop. Must have been for some damage, because it did look very slow going to pit lane as well, so hopefully their car is still able to keep going, as we just see, or I saw on the top left of my screen, the Static Endurance car, as we see there, comes out of the pit lane. So yeah, it doesn't seem to be too much damage on that car if it was in the pits for that short amount of time. It seemed like a regular pit stop for the LMDH car there. Yeah, I'm not sure what damage he might have picked up. Maybe we could see it in a replay of some sort, but yeah, the damage might have been suspension damage, but if it was suspension, it would have been in there for a longer time. I'm not too sure about the fast repair situation going on here as well, but maybe that could be something that they've integrated in here to allow people to have another fighting chance, which I would do myself as well. If I had a bit of damage early on, I'd get straight in the pits, fast repair it, and use all that time I gained in front of the pits to keep the momentum gaining on the rest of the field ahead as well. But yeah, very early pit stop from them. Let's see if it works out for them in the end there as well. As we see a very close battle here for third place in GT3. We have Imperial Motorsports followed by Sim Racing PR and 2Pi Racing Team as well, with the LMDHs coming up behind them as well, with a mix of LMP2s as well. So now everyone's on getting a bit clumped up together, as I said previously, with the LMP2s, LMDHs, and GT3s all together as they're picking their way through there. And this is a GT3 is one of the most hardest things as well, just allowing the LMDHs to send you up the inside and get in the mix of you and really causing some damage to your momentum of the guy ahead. Just a little bit of time to Sim Racing PR. As we see, the Static Adrenaline car, the same car that just boxed, spun on the exit of turn, I believe it is turn 11, I'm pretty sure. Not sure what happened there with them, but they don't seem to be having a fantastic race so far. Let's have a look at a replay on their side. Okay, here we go. Come out through the tricky section of the final sector again. Loses it on just on the rear end itself. Again, with that new tyres and the refresh energy from the pit lane there. Just getting a bit too much on the throttle application for David James and the Static Adrenaline car there. So shame for them. They're not having a race to remember here, Fuji. So let's see what they can do towards the end.
Yeah, still a long way to go in this race. 20 minutes down of a 3-hour race, and that was probably our second. That was our second victim. So we're trying to do a turn 15 victim count here today, because I think it's certainly going to get into the double numbers. But David there getting it slightly wrong through turn 15, giving it a little bit too mustard on the exit, and just lighting up that rear end. Certainly with them cold tyres, as just coming out the pits there. But back to my question, Owen. Obviously, these LMDH cars obviously have driven the old Le Mans P1 cars, the Audi and the Porsche, and you had that button, the boost button, which I couldn't really get to grips with. What's the main differences between the old P1 cars and the new BMW LMDH?
Well, of course, the LMP1, as you said, you had that button to deploy it manually yourself. Of course, you had the automatic setting as well, but it was always more beneficial to have that manual button and to deploy it in certain sections of the track to help you in terms of the full lap time. But whereas this new LMDH, it's all just to do with, there's 3 modes you can have: attack, build, and balanced, and that kind of deploys around the track at certain points to give you a little bit of boost, which is all down to the car's control. You can't really control when it deploys, only what mode you have it on. The best mode to be in really in a race like this is balanced, and maybe in the traffic as well, you can switch it to build to regain some of that energy and then deploy it under the full control of the throttle rather than a button. And yeah, that's pretty much the main differences there. I'd say I prefer the new LMDH kind of deployment mode, you know, it being a kind of tactical advantage to switch modes rather than kind of button. So yeah, I think it's a very good addition, and I think it's a less of a challenge, I'd say. It makes the LMDH more easier to drive than the LMP1s.
So what you're saying is it's for us noobs that weren't very good at the P1 originally, it's a lot easier car to drive, and it should be quite fast in it straight from the off, and not having that tricky button when to press it. Because I do remember being in that P1, the prototype league on Apex Racing TV, and around Le Mans, I was a lap ahead of the car behind me, and by the end of the race he actually caught me, so that shows how terrible I was on the P1s in the previous one. So I might have to give the LMDH a go and see if I'm any better in that. The LMP2 for me was probably the easy one. You don't have any boost buttons or anything like that, it's just pure engine speed of the car that makes it a little bit. And obviously I remember you, Owen, commentating on you in a few of the prototype leagues as well, so that's why your bread and butter is these LMP2 cars, and obviously the LMDH now, as you mentioned earlier on. But we're currently watching Paul here of the organisation coming around turn number 15 here, taking it extremely slow. And you can sort of see the speed difference between the GT3 and the LMP2 cars. The GT3s are probably quicker around that little section of the track. But then obviously you get on the straights, the LMP2 opens its legs and just shoots away. But it's that mix now, I think, that we're looking at in the treachery of the GT3 cars. Not only are they battling their own cars, but it's almost like the cars have been shuffled up like into a big deck, and you've got the GT3s with LMP2s around them and LMDHs. So not only is it one certain car speed that they've got to contend with, it's the two different speeds now, the LMDH and the LMP2s coming up behind them. And for the GT3s, it's very much about controlling their own race, but also managing the traffic behind them and making sure that you try to give or be as obvious as you can for where these faster cars are coming around, to be able to not lose too much time and not cause incidents there, as we just said that. That was a big squeeze up the inside there from the LMP2 car there into turn number 15. So not too happy there is Kevin for that LMP2 car in front, just squeezing up the inside. And that's what we were saying earlier, Owen, is about that traffic management. Let's have a look at a replay here on board from Mike's car, trying to get up the inside. So they're going 2x2, and then all of a sudden, bang, up comes the LMP2 car, overshoots the corner, couldn't get the car rotated, and unfortunately has a contact. And like you were saying with the cars, being paper thin, the GT3s can take a little bit of damage, but these LMP1 or the LMDHs and the LMP2s, they're wafer thin, so that could have caused some damage there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I was about to say as well, the biggest differences in the traffic management in these LMDH and LMP2s come out to the GT3s would be the LMP2 is a lot more aggressive on the brakes. You can really dive on the GT3s more than we can the LMDH. The LMDH being more susceptible to locking up the rears and the fronts, especially at low speed. But yeah, probably taking a bit too much was the number 11 LMP2 there, just a little bit too aggressive on the brakes and going to the side of the Lamborghini, but was just fortunate enough to be parallel to the car, because it seems to be the way that if you're parallel to the car and you hit it, you don't seem to get much damage. But if you get it side on, in terms of suspension to the side pod, that can be a bit more damage as well. So I didn't think there's much damage there for both of them. They seem to hit in a fairly like trading paints kind of way. But yeah, again, this traffic management in LMP2 there, as you can see, the LMP2 is going past Mike Saxon, the Flying Lion Racing car there. It's a big difference in terms of how the GT3s manage them. You know, you've got the LMP2s diving you up the inside, and you've got the LMDHs kind of blitzing you around the high-speed corners.
Yeah, that could have been a costly mistake for the 11 car, making that slightly around. He's 9.4 seconds in that LMP2 in P1 position there. It's probably didn't really need to make that move into that corner. Having that sort of gap, yeah, he would have lost a little bit of time, but that could have ended up a lot worse if Mike Saxon hadn't basically come off the brakes, because the two Lamborghinis were fighting into turn 15th, and that LMP2 car just came up the inside of them, overshot the corner. So that could have been could have been a sort of race ending there for Rui Kuos of the Tempest Sim Sport. Certainly 9 seconds out there as sort of caution for Two Bros Racing for an unsafe rejoin there. One of the treacherous things around there is if you have a spin around this track, you're trying to get back onto track in a safe manner. So a caution there to the Two Bros Race team for the live steward in here, giving the warning to that team to just watch how they do. As you can see there, the Two Bros team already a lap down, only 27 minutes into this race, and it's like I was saying at the start, Owen, it's you want to get through this opening stint, still relatively on pace, not too far behind, or else it's a long day at the office trying to gain back, or if you're as far back as Two Bros Motorsports are at the moment, already a lap down, it's going to be a long day at the office.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, great thing about the endurance, is the length of the race, and thinking about how an incident that's happened to you could happen to someone else on track. So it's always best to stay out there and keep going. As you know, obviously the lap car, just letting people go there, the Two Bros Motorsports. But yeah, it's always best to keep going, no matter what your situation is. As we've seen, a lot of people early pit and be quite far behind. But yeah, always best to stay out there, hope for the best, and hope that something happens to you. As we've seen quite a lot of incidents, and we're only 28 minutes into the race of a 3-hour-long race so far. So yeah, have a look what happens towards the end of the GP3 field, but I don't think it's the end of their race for sure, but it's still a long, long way to go, and as I said, something could happen to someone else out there.
I'm pretty sure there's going to be lots of incidents still to go. 28 minutes in, and we've already witnessed quite a few, and turn 15th has collected a few victims at the moment, as we're currently watching the City Racing Future having a really big battle with SimRD Sim Sports, just jostling for position at the moment, and Obsidian not finding that killer blow at the moment with RD Sim Sport 2, just managing to hold off the ever onslaught from that team in third place. You can see how close it is, but this could be very vital, and this is all about trying to make sure you line up the cars. As we see there, so the Racing Future going on the inside, and the GT3 car just probably not seeing them. These cars are so quick around the corners, and we just see there RD Sim Sport getting it completely wrong through the start finish. This could be an opportunity here for Obsidian Racing Future, going ducking and diving down the start finish line. We'll have the overspeed coming into turn number 1, so it's going to be a drag race here between RD Sim Sport 2 and Obsidian Racing Future down to turn 1. You've got Obsidian Racing Future on the outside of turn 1, RD Sim Sport 2 on the inside, so it always favours the inside of the corner, so not able to make the move, but it looks like a switchback move here from Obsidian Racing Future, and manages to get the move done, or does he? RD Sim Sport 2 is trying to come back at him, but no, looks like Obsidian Racing Future, as RD Sim Sport takes an unorthodox line there through turn number 3, the Coca-Cola corner, and just probably a little bit frustrated with that GT3 car coming out of that last corner, literally slowing them up, which sort of started that move off for Obsidian Race Future all that way back, all the start finish straight, and managing to get the move there done going into turn 3 of Coca-Cola corner. So a great change of positions between Obsidian Racing Future and RD Sim Sport 2.
Yeah, not only that, but We Too Fast Racing also got a bit of an action as well, going up into third place. Yeah, that one little error from the GT3, just not looking in the mirrors enough to see the RD Sim Sport 2 car there on the last corner, cost them dear with it must be said, a brilliant move from the Obsidian Racing Future car there. Of course, Obsidian Racing have a very strong LMVH program, and it seems like the other team, Obsidian Racing Future, learning from the best of them as well, with a lovely switchback at turn 1. As we see Sim HQ Motorsports have a trip to the grass. Interesting to see what happened with them. It seems like they kind of spun and they'll rejoin back on track as we have a look here. Coming through, I believe this is down to turn 10. Probably takes too much curb on the left-hand side, or getting to the grass at the snap of the rear. And there goes the tyres for at least another 3 laps, and it will take a long time for them to go back in a nice window. So yeah, shame for Sim HQ there, a little small mistake in the grass, spinning off into the other side of the track there. But as I was saying, yeah, RD Sim Sport 2 losing 2 positions out of that one little mistake there from the traffic, and as I said before, that little last sector there is very crucial for the traffic management and for the rest of the race, because saving that energy, especially in that last sector, can be crucial for the start finish line and the sector 1, as we saw there with We Too Fast Racing and Obsidian Racing Future taking the position.
Yeah, it definitely is, and you can sort of see how it ebbs and flows in that time as we watching the sim RD Sim Sport 2 here, putting a little bit of pressure on, which then getting it slightly wrong again, really pushing it really hard with We2 Fast Racing, and managing to get a change of position here. So it's really starting to heat up in that LMDH class. But, you know, it's just amazing, you know, going through the field one time, the times go out, and then the second time everyone comes sort of together. So from second, third, fourth and fifth in the LMDH class is extremely close. RD Sim Sport 2 is now 2 seconds behind Obsidian Racing Future. You know, it's getting a lot of pressure from We2 Fast Racing behind, which is giving Obsidian Racing Future the opportunity to start leapfrogging. But he is 9.2 seconds behind the leader, RD Sim Sport. So he's out in front, being able to cut his own laps, which is really paid to get that advantage, because Obsidian Racing Future, as we just saw, was in a battle with RD Sim Sport 2. Now RD Sim Sport 2 is in a battle with We2 Fast Racing, and Penguin RC Simulation MDH is just off the back of this group that we're currently watching now. So they are just there, the third car in that trio at the back. So these three are sort of going to be coming together very shortly. Certainly when we come up against, again, the LMP2s and the GT3 cars, it's going to make it certainly spicy. As we look further back then to the second place in the LMP2, the Organisation Pro Am team, 6.7 seconds behind the Tempest Sim Sport. So that has come down around about 2 seconds, but does have 100 force behind him in third place, pushing him extremely hard here to try to get that position back. So 100 force currently in the same position that he started at this race in P3. The Organisation Pro Am are up 5 places from where they started, so a great opening 33 minutes to this race for the 100 force team. They did do well out last time, currently lying second in the championship on 32 points, so certainly shows that they do have the pace to come through the field, and showing it here today at Fuji. So the Organisation Pro Am team currently under a little bit of pressure from the 100 force team there in third place in the LMP2s. Looking further back then to the GT3 class, our leader RD Sim Sport 4, 2.1 seconds ahead of the Tempest Sim Sports team. So relatively close then, another 2 seconds back to Sim Racing PR, then about 2.5 seconds back to Tupac Racing in 4. So the top 4 of that GT3 class relatively close together. And then it's the gap starting to form a little bit back from 5th place with Imperial Motorsports, 8.1 seconds behind the leader at the moment. So around about 2 or 3 seconds, then starts increasing to 4 seconds between 5th and 6th in that GT3. So still relatively close, but as we say, Owen, it's relatively early days. 25 laps down, 34 minutes. So we should expect to see the cars, like you were saying, if it was 40 minutes, to start coming in, because looking at the fuel limits for these cars for this series, the LMDH has got 100%, the LMP2s have got 100%, but the GT3s have been limited to 83% maximum fuel, which means that they could do it like an hour's stint normally. So that probably brings it down to equalise the field for them to all be able to do around about 40-minute stints.
Yeah, and that will pay dividend to the strategy calls for sure. I mean, obviously, we've seen how much of a difference the traffic can make to this race with the gaps in LMP2 to LMDH, all really like swapping and changing. You know, just the big differences in time with the traffic there. As we see our first pitter, the Organisation Pro Am, coming to the box right on cue. You kind of want to pit just before you come into that second or that third wave of traffic, because if you can avoid that third wave of traffic, you get more clean air, and then you can get it later on in the stint, rather than taking that bit of traffic, then pitting, and then taking the same bit of traffic again. So it's always best to pit a little bit earlier, or still making that lap time to go to the 3-hour mark. But yeah, it's always best to pit a little bit early. So we'll see what the Organisation Pro Am car comes out in terms of the traffic runs. But yeah, as we see another person in the background, then LMP2 going to the pits as well. It's always best to pit early, as I just said. And yeah, I feel like it's going to be quite an interesting strategy call for these teams to make.
Yeah, it certainly is. As we see the other organisation, LMP2 team, come in, the amateurs. So very much a conscious decision for the pit stop strategy for that organisation team. Both teams coming in on lap number 27, 36 minutes into this race here. But losing his second place on field, but we'll see after the round of pit stops who wins out between 100 Force and that team there after the round of pit stops. But you can sort of see the gaps now start to it's almost like an accordion, isn't it? They go out and they come in. It's whenever they get into the field, and it all depends about the traffic management. As we watch the organisation amateur team come out, and they actually came out in front of the Pro-Am team, it looks like. So
that is interesting.
Yeah, so I wonder what happened there with the Pro-Am team. They obviously changed the tyres, but seem to be in the pits a little bit more. I'm just looking at the pit stops. Wow. So the organisation Pro-Am team was in the pits for 1 minute 15 seconds. The organisation amateur team were in for 36 seconds, so a big difference there. I wonder if there was a speed in the pit lane possibly for the organisation Pro-Am team that is why they're showing 1 minute and 15.
Yeah, that is weird. I'm trying to think of what that could be. I mean, I know that these guys have one fast repair to use, and that is their first run of pit stop, so they couldn't have been sitting there for damage, perhaps. I mean, don't know if it was tyres as well. It might well have been, but yeah, it's quite interesting. Quite interesting change in strategy there. But obviously, they've got back ahead of them on track now, and they're dropping quite far behind. So I reckon it probably is a case of tyres because, yeah, they seem to be dropping quite far back quite quickly as well. So yeah, if they haven't taken tyres, it's quite interesting strategy call to make. Maybe it can benefit them towards the very end. But as we just seen there with the kind of pace difference between the two cars, it doesn't seem to be that much of a benefit there.
Definitely not, but that is there as we've seen the organising Pro-Am getting it slightly wrong round our turn number 15. What should we call it? We're going to have to name that some corner, I think, probably by the end of this race with the amount of spins that we're going to see around there. But getting it slightly wrong on them cold tyres, but that's really going to hinder his time against 100 Force. He was fighting for that second place, but with a 1 minute 15 second pit stop, and I'm pretty sure if 100 Force can get in without any undue time penalties, would probably be well out. So you may see the organisation Pro-Am field round about 5th or 6th in the track. Oh, as we say that, the amateur team gets it slightly wrong and nearly collects car number 75 there, I think it was that 15. The car that he just passed, it is car number 78. Long Haul Racing 2, who's currently in P5, nearly getting collected there by the team. So not by the organisation team. Not having the best of outlaps are the organisation. Both the Pro-Am and the Am team getting in some incidents, trying to get them tyres back up to temperature. But it's interesting what you say about the tyres. With the new makeup that iRacing have gone, it almost takes away the strategy of changing the tyres, because the tyres get changed at the same time that it's refueling now, whereas previously it was tyre change, it was refueling, and then the tyres got changed. So I suppose in these races where if you go in right to empty out your tank, it sort of makes sense to change your tyres if you're filling the tank up to the brim. It's when you come into the closing stages that it really comes in. Do you change 2 tyres? Do you change none? Don't change any tyres on a pit stop when you're doing a splash and dash. It's always calculating of where you're going to be when it comes into the realms of the end of the race. But I suppose on these earlier stints you would expect them to change all 4 tyres on every stint, or maybe at least a minimum of 2 tyres.
Yeah, I mean, perhaps, yeah, as you say, with the 2 tyres, that I reckon that could have been the case with the Pro-Am car there. That I think they did actually take 2 tyres to come out just ahead of the other organisation car there, but then they're just struggling with that grip. The balance when you take the 2 tyres is really, really weird to get used to, as I know that from Daytona 24-hour that we went on and won an Apex Racing team. When we took 2 tyres, it was really, really offsetting the balance. It took about 2 or so laps to get it back together again. And with the other car taking probably 4 tyres, the probably reason why they locked up was due to the high level of fuel that they just put in the car again, endurance level fuel. So yeah, probably just caught them off guard. We're going into a slow speed corner, locked up the rears, and kind of went on a little bit of a spin on their own. But yeah, I reckon it was a 2 tyre choice for, I believe it was the organisation Pro, and a 4 tyre choice for organisation Pro-Am there.
Yeah, it definitely is. But it's almost like a race in itself, isn't it? The pit lane strategies that these drivers and teams go through, making the decisions on what they want to do each pit stop to be able to optimise the least amount of time in the pits, but also optimising the fact that they're trying to keep their race paces. We watch 100 Force here coming in from 2nd place, so this will give us a good indication of how much time that Organisation Pro-Am team has lost. So we'll just see. I'm expecting them to go up onto the jacks, change the tyres around. As you can see, the smoke probably coming off the either the exhaust or then brake ducts would be extremely hot. So let's have a look and see what time. So that's tipped into 15 seconds at the moment, stationary for the 100 force. I'll keep you attuned, but when we see him onto the pit lane, as we watch Static Adrenaline in P10. Currently 2 laps down in there after the earlier issues that the team has had. So not having the best of rounds here in Fuji, but it's all about maintaining that speed and to be able to keep there. As we see 100 force on the pit exit. Let's have a look. It's 35 seconds was his stop, so he is going to be way out in front from what was a battle for that second place between the 100 force and the Organisation Pro-Am. I mean, where are they on track, really? Let's just see in respect to distance. You can sort of see that whole start-finish straight. In fact, they're not even at the start-finish straight. They're just coming around to turn number 15. So you can just see the amount of time the Organisation Pro-Am team have lost in that pit stop.
I've also noticed, sorry to interrupt you, Andy, I think that's a lot of damage on the rear end of that Organisation Pro-Am car as well. Damage that I don't think we've seen. It damage to the front right a little bit there, so it snaps back into place, but definitely the rear end as we see it past the screen now. Okay, no, it must have been the visual glitch from my end, but it definitely looked like the car was a lot damaged than usual. I got very scared then. My apologies.
Definitely is, but it's all going. But you can see the timers in the LMD2 Obsidian Racing Future is trying to close down the gap now to RD Sim Sports in front, around about 9 seconds. But the crucial thing is they're trying to open up a gap between RD Sim Sports too. We saw about 5 minutes ago them in a real titanic battle at the end of that lap where Obsidian managed to get the move done, but it's since then it's RD Simsport 2 who we're currently watching on screen is trying to fight off Penguin RC Simulation. So, you know, RD Simsport 2 has not been able to go the lines that it wants to be, being defensive, which has given the opportunity for Obsidian Racing Future to now get around about a 4-second gap between themselves and RD Simsport 2, and that's where it comes to having that understanding. If a car's close by you, it's either we're going to full out race here, or let's work together, use the slipstream to our advantage and try and close that gap. But certainly at the moment it doesn't look like Penguin RC Simulation is trying to play ball with the RD Simsport 2 team, as we're watching Tempest Simsport here in first place in that LMP2, coming in for his first stop. Does he have a driver change, or is he going to be in? He'll probably do 2 stints, I would imagine, each is normal stints for an endurance race. And if I remember from last time out, Rui Kios was probably the main driver for that Tempest Simsport in Season 2. I literally did all the races commentary for that series, Season 2. So I do remember Rui Kios being heavily involved in that team as well. But looking down the field now, it seems like a lot of cars are coming into the pits. So we've got Obsidian Racing Future in, RD Simsport 2 in, We2 Fast Racing, Tempest Simsport from the LMP2 class in, SimHQ Motorsport Red, Long Haul Racing 2 and Blue Shell Racing all in the pits at the moment. The RD Simsport still staying out there in the LMD2 class, but looking at it further down, that is all the LMP2s in for their first pit stops, and the GT3 cars have yet to come in to start making their stops.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see that RD Simsport didn't pit that lap, but he's got a lot of traffic ahead of him now, so I just suspect that he pits this lap rather than next, because, you know, he doesn't want to be caught up in that traffic and lose that massive amount of lap time and that gap that he built up. So I can imagine Archie for RD Simsport will pit in this lap to avoid all that GT3 traffic ahead of him. See if we see him go to the right hand side at all. No, he is not pitting. That is very interesting. Okay, so let's see what that works out for the RD Simsport car. But if I was him, I would have pitted very early on to avoid this the traffic that's about to come up ahead of him now. As we see on the track map on the right hand side of your screen there, the blue cars being the GT3 cars, of course, and it is quite a lot of cars. As you can see, he's already being held up by. He's going to catch in the last sector there, so very surprising that they didn't pit early on to try and avoid that and get out in that massive amount of clean air that you can see around about the last corner.
Yeah, I suppose they're probably looking at it thinking, well, if we get onto the back of these cars towards the end of this lap, trying to make it. So there's a few cars there as well. The Organisation Pro, their day goes from bad to worse at the moment. So he's had a little bit of a spin there in 9th in the LMD class. Yeah, one lap down at the moment. It's probably them, like you say, coming out from their pit stops and not realising that, because you've just been racing for like 47 minutes, you're trying to get yourself back onto pace, but you've really got to rein yourself in on them out laps. It's pretty much like the first lap again with them tyres. Certainly if you change all 4 tyres, or even if you, like you said, Owen, you change 2 of the tyres, it's probably going to be even worse if you change 2 than change all 4. At least all 4 wheels are in the same sort of state, whereas if you change 2, you've got 2 brand new ones. It's We Too Fast Racing have a spin as well. They were challenging for 4th place in that LMDH class and getting caught up. If that was a self-imposed spin or if that was a little bit of a tag at the back, but that is round. That could be another turn 15 issue because that is coming out onto the start finish straight. Let's have a look at a replay. So coming around turn 15, coming around the last corner.
Oh,
very strange.
Yeah, the front end just bites a little bit too much at the front end. That'll be probably because he's left too much trail brake on the front end of that car, and the front end just grips up too much. Rear end steps around, and there's no chance of saving that in that type of off-cambered, long swinging right-handed corner there. So shame for We Too Fast Racing to have that kind of spin, but it is very possible in this car with the front end this car has.
100%. You know, it's having that mentality of coming out after the pits, making sure you get yourself back up to speed, trying to not lose too much time. So trying to get onto the power or get into the brakes a little bit too early into that corner has really cost We Too Fast Racing, who were up there with the RD Sim Sport 2 guys fighting it out for 4th overall. So lost a lot of time because you saw literally an Austin Powers moment to try and get himself back on track. But that was good for him because he didn't put himself in harm's way of other traffic's coming around the corner, because it's pretty much a blind bend when you come into that. It really opens out at the end, but certainly where he was perched right just after the apex of the corner, he did a good job to get it back on to make sure he doesn't have any damage. But currently looking back, and Penguin RC Simulation LMDH has really profited from that. Finds himself in 3rd place at the moment. RD Sim Sports just behind him. So we did see him earlier on, the Penguin RC team, just at the back of the battle between RD Sim Sports and We Too Fast Racing with the City in Future, and pretty much kept his nose nice and clean, and has come out on top after the first round of pit stops. Currently finds himself in P3. We now start getting into the realms of the GT3 cars. We got Chris Hudson here of Can-Am Racing from 12th position coming down the pit lane. It's an extremely long pit, and you can see there just having a little bit of a chill out. So you really got to make sure you limit the amount of pit stops you have around here at Fuji. It literally runs the whole length, near enough the whole length of that start finish straight. So you will lose a lot of time being in that pit lane, as we see there. Penguin RC just after we bigged him up. Commentator Kirsty has a spin, and that is around the last corner as well.
It is definitely indeed run the last one. It seems like it's done it on throttle out to the left-hand side there, as we see a replay of the moment that it happened. Coming through some GT3s. Let's have a look. RD Sim Sport 2 car right behind them. Yeah, he's very tight into this corner. Oh, gets caught up with the GT3. Yeah, so similar thing will happen to the RD Sim Sport 2 car again. Gets caught up with a little bit of the GT3 there at the last corner and goes a little bit of a spin. So yeah, that's not going to be very good for their tyres at all. And yeah, after a very good pit stop and a good strategy there from them guys, yeah, they're going to be very frustrated with that GT3, I'm very sure.
Yeah. You know, as they say in motor racing, it's never over till the checker flag, and there's probably no more round than this that's going to put that to the test, because there's a lot of incidences coming out on track. You know, there probably wasn't the need to maybe make that passing opportunity there from Nate from the Penguin RC Simulation team. Got up the inside, but again, it's probably that Lamborghini didn't realise that it was up on his inside, tried to get the apex of the corner, and just collided into the number 66 car, the Penguin RC Simulation MDH team, and unfortunately made him a spin, which has lost them a lot of time. Only one position out on track, so currently still running around in 4th place, but you can see the time difference there. 15 seconds they've lost to the RD Simsport 2 team, so that has been extremely costly for the car number 66. As we look back at the other Penguin RC Simulation, Cody Cosgrove currently in P14th in the BMW, 1 lap down. Just having a look here, has he pitted? Yes, he has done his pit stop, so there's still around about 4 cars in that GT3 field that owe a pit stop on this first stint. We can just see 2 of them coming in. The Tempest Simsport $101 team coming in from 2nd place in the team. So RD Simsport 4 is really pushing on to try and maximize the laps in that BMW. BMW renowned for being probably quite good on the fuel around these tracks, so really pushing that to the absolute limit. Coming up to 52 minutes gone into this 3-hour race. We'll give you a rundown of all the positions after each of the hour marks, so you can see where each of the classes are currently doing, but they're all very much entwined with each other. Can you just put the track map up, really, just so we can sort of see how mixed they are out on track? You can just see all the colours all over the track, just entwined with each other. There's no real big clumps of cars. I think 7th to 8th in the LMD is probably the closest, and then it's all sort of spread out, so there's cars all over the field, and there's going to be no respite for the LMDH class when they're trying to get through the field.
Yeah, for sure. This, yeah, as you said, this is the stage in the race where traffic is everywhere, and it's very, very hard to get a clean spot around this track. So, yeah, a lot of them are going to be picking their moments. Again, traffic management comes into key here for sure, as we see Steve Miller for the RD Sport 4 car pitting in. Let's see where he comes out. Again, with a massive gap to the rest of the field, it doesn't seem like he's going to lose P1 anytime soon. But yeah, as I said before, with the LMDHs coming through the traffic here, it's just mainly picking moments which seem a bit more comfortable. Again, it doesn't really matter too much if you go for a move that's too aggressive. You know, at the start, everyone's really bunched up, and you need to make that aggressive moves for the traffic to build your gap. But now the gap's kind of pretty much set, and it's more just about picking your chances, saving that energy, saving that fuel, and being a bit more cautious than before. As we see there with the RD Sport car again, as I said before, 7.7 second gap now. It's not really changed much since the pit stop has happened. Mainly about 4/10 of a second has lost. As we see a battle here, this is with Christopher Hayes in the 913 car. No, yep, that's Flying Lion there pitting in, and Imperial Motorsports staying out there as well. So differing strategies there between the two GT3s. It'll be interesting to see how that pays out for them. But it seems like Imperial Motorsports have the LMDHs behind them, with a few LMB2s as well for company as well. So let's see if the Flying Lion SG car has the right strategy there to avoid most of the traffic, which is the key things here in the endurance racing. As we see Steve Miller come back out on track, right into the path of the LMB2 and the GT3 there behind in the 2 Gross Motorsport car. But yeah, nice and comfortable pit stop there for the RDC Sport 4 car. And yeah, let's see what these guys can do with the traffic management in this second phase of the race.
Yeah, it definitely is. So that's pretty much, that is all the drivers in. We've got 2 drivers still in the pit lane. We've got Mike Sack of Flying Line SG and Wild Juice Racecraft. And those are our last 2 teams to make their first round of pit stops. So we're near at the hour mark, so let's give you a rundown of the current positions in the class. So out in front at 6.9 seconds, lost about 2 or 3 seconds to Obsidian Racing Future is RD Simsport. So pretty much had it all his own way at the start of this race, going into the hour marker. Not really been challenged at the front, but looks like Obsidian Racing Future, who's behind him in second place, 6.9 seconds, was around about 9 seconds before the round of pit stop. So that gap has come down to the second place team of Obsidian Racing Future. In third place, we got RD Simsport 2, 18 seconds behind the leader. And obviously the more noticeable thing is the gap between Obsidian Racing Future and the RD Simsport 2 team is certainly extended. So the gaps between 1, 2 and 3 have all extended. Through to fourth place, Pneumatic Motorsports Blue, 37 seconds behind there, 19 seconds behind RD Simsport 2. So that top 4 of the field really been spread out, with Penguin RC Simulation after his earlier spin not that far behind in 5th place to Pneumatic Motorsports. So probably the closest battle out on track at the moment in that LMD2 class. In 6th place, we got We Too Fast Racing, 55 seconds off the leader, around about 14 seconds behind the car we're currently watching of the Penguin RC Simulation LMDH team out there. So very much spread out with CMSRacing.com Pro, only around about a second behind the We Too Fast Racing team there in 7th place. In 8th place, we got SimHQ Motorsport Orange, 59 seconds. So between 6th, 7th and 8th, that's probably the closest battle. 4 seconds are the ones that are splitting them 3 positions in the LMDH class. Organisation Pro, 1 lap down after that terrible pit stop. We're not sure what happened there. 1 minute 15, easily 30 seconds. So sort of my best guess would be speeding in that pit lane. Got that 40-second penalty, add that on. You're in the realms of where they the 1 minute 15, so not the best of pit stop strategy there for the organisation pro team. With Static Adrenaline rounding out your top 10 in that LMDH field, back 2 laps down at the moment from the rest of the field, so not had the best of stints has the Static Adrenaline team. Over to you, Owen, for the LMP2s.
Yeah, so of course we have the Tempus SimSport car flying in the lead under the hands of Reed Quiris as well. A very, very quick LMP2 driver. I remember racing him abundance of times in the past in this car, and yeah, he's very, very quick in this car, of course, being 13 seconds ahead of the 100 force car in P2, separated by a very, very good margin of around 20 seconds to the SimHQ Motorsports red car, followed very closely by the RD SimSports 3 car there, separated by about 2 seconds. And then 10 seconds back is Longhorn Racing 2, followed by Blue Shell Racing, who is very, very close to the rear end. In fact, so is Sim Republic SR3 as well, who are all within around about, say, 4 or so seconds together. So that will be quite a neat battle there for the second step of them guys to keep up with. Then following that is the Organisation Pro-Am and the Organisation Amateur, who had, both not so great pit stops between the both of them, and not so great outputs either. So yeah, shame for them guys that they couldn't do much with it, but they are both a minute behind the Tempest SimSport leader of the LMP2s. So yeah, there is your rundown of the LMP2 class, and back to you, Andy, for the GT3s.
Oh, just as we watch that, we see the organisation progress. That team is not having the best of days. I did mention there that the LMDH team obviously was the one that had the pit stop. It wasn't. It was the LMP2 organisation Pro-Am team that had that exceptional pit stop. But let's have a look at the GT3 field then. Imperial Motorsports has done a blinder in that round of pit stops, currently leading out the way in first place. As we're watching at the moment, the SimCar Racing team who are having a bit of a ding-dong here with the RD SimSport going down the inside. Look, 3 wide there into turn number 1, and RD SimSport 4, who were our leaders before the round of pit stops, trying to get 2 for 1 there, but nearly came off a cropper in 4th place, but not had the best of pit stops as the RD SimSport 4 team trying to make up positions. But this is getting super spicy into this second stint, trying to go around the outside here. The Sim Racing PR, who's not making the position tell really, but really pushing on as best as he can at the moment. You can see the gap is around about 0.4 of a second to that Sim Racing PR in third. So certainly a spicy race for that third position between these 2 drivers. So we look further back with Tupac Racing having a little battle here with the RD SimSports, just looking up the road from him. He's just trying to, in fact that was a back marker there, just trying to get past and trying to find the number of it. Let's see, is that number 7? Not sure, but he's currently in 5th place, just trying to get onto the back end of that battle in front with RD SimSport 4, between the SimSport Sport and the Sim Racing PR, who are going tooth and nail around this battle. Just giving the opportunity for Tupac Racing there, just in the background, the Lamborghini to close that gap down the start-finish straight. And I'm pretty sure that BMW here, just watch this battle, will make a dive into the turn number 1, right on the rear bumper of the Lamborghini, just pulls out of the slipstream, pulls alongside the Lamborghini into turn 1. Is he going to be able to make the move toe? I think so. Yes, he is. The Lamborghini just backs off, and Steve Miller there just managing to get back into P3 overall. So some spicy racing in that GT3 file. Just looking further down the GT3 class, P5 we've got Tupac Racing, P6 we got Can-Am Racing, and then P7 we got Penguin RC Simulations, up one position from where they started. So down one position is Chad Dick in the marginally above average Sim Racing team in P8. P9 we got Team Breakfade, and P10 we got Back Pain and Ice Rain Racing. P11 we got Valhalla Motorsports. P12 we got CMSRacing.com Ghost, and P13 Fly Lion SG team, and in P14 we've got Sim Republic. P15 we've got Wild Goose Racecraft, and Paul Gracer is currently out of the race, it's saying. So from that earlier incident we saw around there, is he out? No, he is coming back out of the pits there after his earlier spin through the last corner. And in P17 we got Two Boss Motorsports, and P18 rounding out is Longhorn Racing in that GT3 field. So some spicy battles certainly starting to ensue in this second stint there, Owen.
Yeah, for sure. Going back on that move with Steve Miller in the RD Sim Sport, I think that's RD Sim Sport number 4 car as well, down to turn 1. Yeah, he seemed to be very aggressive on the lunge down on that Lamborghini there, and you know, I can understand the frustration though, leading for so long and having a little bit of a bad pit stop, losing you quite a lot of time, and then losing that position as well. It seems like he has got ahead by quite a long way of the Lamborghini there behind, so now moves up to 3rd place, but still 5 seconds back from both Temper Sim Sport and Imperial Motorsports there at the front. So he's going to be on the charge to try and get that position back, manage the traffic as best he can, and hope that he gets into a lot of clean air to try and catch that gap back. But he's doing so fairly well. And then if I know Steve Miller, which I do, he is going to be pushing quite a lot to catch back up. As we see a little bit of a spin of the LMP2 that was very close to being Steve Miller's race very much over, with the commentator's curse there. But the organisation Amateur again not having the best of days for sure in the second stage of the race, just having a little spin, the kind of hairpin there. Region's back on track nice and easily. But yeah, that was almost Steve Miller's race over, as I was trying to big him up and try and cheer him along to go get P1.
I think we need to stop bigging up drivers. As soon as we do that, ladies and gentlemen, incident. So we're trying to refrain from bigging drivers up and just be monotone about the abilities that the drivers are doing. But this second stint for that organisation has been a disaster. This after the first round of pit stops, we've seen both the amateur and the pro-am team. Pro-am team obviously having the minute and a half in the pit lane, which has really put patent. They were in second place at one stage, and as we can see now, they're further down the order in the LMP2 class. I'm just having a look where they are. They're currently in P8 for the class. They were fighting for P7, a minute and 15 back. So it's, that pit stop has really hindered them. And then we saw a few times out of the pits, sort of spinning it. So this second stint for that team. Not only that, the GT3 team, we saw them as well coming out of the pit stops, spinning it out. So as a team, I think they've got solidarity, and they're all having a particularly bad second stint. But we're looking at Sim Republic SR3 there. Nathan just getting it slightly wrong coming into turn number 13. I think that was coming out of turn 12. That turn 12 has got a deceivingly tricky curb on the inside of turn number 12, which a couple of drivers are hitting. It's the yellow curb on you might get a picture of it when another car goes through turn number 13. Just look at the inside curb, and you know you've got the chevron part, but just inside that you've got them pesky yellow sausage curbs, which are the ones that are getting the cars airborne. And certainly with these LMDHs and the LMP2s, they certainly do not like bumps. Big bumps in the track. So if they do hit there, and that might have been what happened there to Nathan, getting that slightly wrong coming out of turn 12, I believe it was, or going through 13. So we'll certainly have a look there. But Nathan currently running around in P7 for minute and 4 off the lap. So probably not that far off. I'm just having a look there where P1 is, and yeah, it's just coming around the first corner now. So pretty much only around about a quarter of a lap ahead of being lapped by the LMP2 leader of the Tempest Simsport team. So Rui Kuros, who, as you said, Owen, is an extremely fast driver, and just seemed to spend a lot of time in the car to maximise a point for them team. But yeah, again, doing a great job. 15.8 seconds ahead of the 100 Force. And 100 Force have really profited off that round of pit stops as well. Currently in P2, well out on their own. 15 seconds behind the leader, but more importantly, around about 20 seconds ahead of Sim HQ Motorsport Red. And that LMP2 field has really been shaken up after the round of pit stop, hasn't it?
Yeah, for sure. And as I said before with the tyres, you know, choosing that kind of strategy is very crucial here. You know, you can afford to take 2 tyres or 4 tyres as well, depending on what you want to play out with your car, especially from how it's feeling around the track as well. But yeah, as I said, with Temper Sim Sport, with Rick Ruris at the wheel of the car, yeah, he's a very talented driver. I remember racing him countless times in LMP2 Fix Series and LMP2 in IMSA, and yeah, he was always giving me a really hard time. So cool to see him here leading this field by a really comfortable margin. It's 17.5 seconds now for him. Doesn't seem like too much is going to affect his race, other than an incident with traffic or an incident with himself, which is not really likely to happen. But yeah, as you said, the 72 field is shaking up quite a bit with the pit stops there. Yeah, as you said again, with the tyre choices you can change in this car, it's freed up the kind of strategy choices a little bit more. But yeah, with the traffic management as well, it's made it a little bit difficult, because with the LMDHs coming at you as well, it's not only GT3 you have to worry about, it's also that big electric hybrid of the LMDH there as well to worry about, and really separate the cars here today.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's just looking back at the GT3 and Imperial Motorsports, their last pit stop, and this is why they are currently in P1 in that GT3 field, it was 21.48 seconds, a full 14 seconds faster than any other GT3 car. So it's going to be very much on a different strategy than the rest of the field. So let's see. It'll be interesting to see their strategy come at the end of the race. Do they have to come in for a splash and dash, or have they done their shorter stint here for the second stint, and then basically can do their longer stints during the end of the race? But at the moment, a great or a different strategy than the rest of the GT3 field out on track. 21 seconds in the pit, where everybody else was 35 seconds, so that's why at the moment they are currently sat in the P1, but will definitely be out of sync with the rest of them, with Temper Sim Sport only 0.5 of a second behind. You can see that second Audi just there going through the screen there. That shows how close that battle is for the top of the GT3. So maybe a little bit of a false picture at the moment, but Imperial Motorsports is currently leading out that GT3 field, like I said, taking 14 seconds out of the rest of the field in that last pit stop. So he will certainly be pitting a lot earlier than the rest of the field. You can see there RD Sim Sport 4 and Sim Racing PR are currently under investigation with the drivers. So it's going to be interesting to see, and it's always good, I think, as well, Owen. You know, you come into normal league racing and you have to wait till after the race to get the incident, but certainly having live steward adds a new element to what is an excellent series.
Yeah, for sure. Live stewarding is always, you know, the best thing that any race in general can have, for sure, because, you know, in the usual official races in our racing, you can kind of barge people out of the way and not really, you know, cause too much of an hindrance to yourself. So yeah, it's for sure great to have live stewarding, and especially with you know, if you have an incident like as we saw with RD Sim Sport 4 and the Sim Racing PR Lamborghini machine there, if they come together at turn 1, even if it's a small hit, it can be under investigation, and there can be a reprimand to that as well. So it makes you stand on your edge of your toes a little bit more, and really think about what you're doing in the car with the moves, and making sure that you're being as sensible as you can, but also being aggressive with your moves as well.
Yeah, it definitely is. And David, I don't know if you want to come into the comms booth for a quick chat. Obviously, David is one of the main organisers for this series, and he can give us a little bit what goes into the makeup, how they're able to do the live stewarding, because it is very labour intensive to put the live stewarding on and doing all the behind the scenes. So David, if you are there, pop into the interview waiting area, mate, and we'll pull you in for a chat about the series again. Obviously, riding high off the success of Series 2, seems to be going extremely well here, and it'd be interesting to find out the mix of track and what the thought was behind the track selection. Is it the fact that you've gone for one slipstream fast track and then followed by a tight technical track, or is it that's just the way it is by potluck? But I'm pretty sure with your organisational skills that isn't the case, and you purposely gave these drivers a bit of a challenge through this third series. But again, providing some excellent racing, and having the 3 different cars on track is always going to be almost like a recipe for disaster. But at the moment, the drivers are, on the whole, I think, giving a lot of respect to each other. Very minor incidents involving the faster cars with the slower cars, isn't that right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, as I said before with the live stewarding, it's been very cool to see these guys, be very respectful with their racing, and very respectful with the traffic management as well. No longer we see the big prototype sends, they just, full blast send it into high braking zones and don't matter if they shove the G3s off into the other end of the track. It's been very respectable and very clear cut with their moves. Some little bit of miscommunication here and there at the last sector, but that's always going to happen at a tight twisted nature of that section of the track, and being very hard to see these LMDHs coming up your inside. Yeah, still been very respectable, still been very clean, and it's been a joy to watch.
Certainly has. We were just riding on board there with the Tempest Sim Sport, just trying to put a little bit of pressure on Imperial Motorsports heading out in front. So this is the battle for first place in that GT3 class. Obviously, a point to note is the Imperial Motorsports will be carrying a lot less fuel, maybe a lot less new tyres as well, considering they only took a 21-second pit stop strategy, with the rest of the GT3 field took 35 seconds. So a little bit out of kilter for the rest of the field will the Imperial Motorsports team on there. But at the moment, Tempest Simsport putting under a lot of pressure from the Imperial Motorsport team, is trying to make that opportunity to get that passing manoeuvre done here. And very equal cars as well, these Audi setups, so no advantage of the difference in car classes. So it's really going to be down to the setup that Zhao has in that car, and obviously the fact of traffic in front of him. So it's going to be interesting to see if Zhao can make that passing over Christopher, who's currently leading out the way in Imperial Motorsport. So interesting goings on there in the GT3, and it's good to see the 2 Audis currently leading the way. But Audi SimSport 4 there, you can see in third place, 2.2 seconds off our leader for the pretty much the whole of the first stint in that GT3 class, is trying to play catch up. We're looking back at the first place in the LMDH, the RD Sim Sport team, 7.9 seconds, so has managed to grow that gap a little bit by the tune of about a second over Obsidian Racing Future in second place. And then there's a big gap back from Obsidian to RD Sim Sport 2 in third place. But the top 3 sort of spreading out in that LMDH. Track with 4th, you can see there, 43 seconds, or a 20-second gap back from 3rd to 4th. So the top 4 in that LMDH field sort of spreading out a little bit, but Obsidian Racing Future is trying his best to close down that gap. 7.9 up to 8 seconds, so losing a little bit more gap. You can sort of see where he is out on track coming through turn number 10. He does have a lot of traffic in front of him. Just looking for that first place at the moment. You can see first place just coming on the exit of turn number 15, so they're quite close out on track, and it's all going to come down to the traffic management and being able to pass the cars to see if that gap comes down any closer. But you know, Obsidian Racing Future are going to have a good run here coming down the start-finish line, being able to pass the cars you can see in front of him. So should be able to claw back a little bit of time over RD Sim Sports as we ride on board here with the Obsidian Racing Rafael Munez in second place in that LMD. You can just see how quick these cars. I always remember driving an LMP2 car and thinking they were faster passing the GT3 cars. Obviously these LMDH cars passing the GT3 must be like a blur, hence why, you know, a lot of them may be getting caught off by the fact of going into corners with the closing speed of these LMDH cars. But at the moment, Obsidian Racing Future Rafael in second place is doing all he can. 8.1 seconds is the gap to first place.
Indeed, as we see Obsidian Racing just trying their best to manage the traffic as much as they can. The gap is still ever growing though, as we see RD Simsport at the very front, eking away, as we see. Oh, a little bit of miscommunication there with the the prototypes there as they move left to right, left to right. But yeah, Obsidian Racing Future, of course, a very solid team in the Obsidian Racing car, being that they have a very, very talented LMDH roster in the esports world, in the BMW Sim Cup world. So yeah, Obsidian Racing Future seems to have a very solid group of guys here as well that are able to put a lot of pressure on Odyssey Sport. As I say that, they lose a lot of time there behind a Mercedes, I believe that was, into turn 15 there. So yeah, very unfortunate then to lose a bunch of time to traffic, but it seems like they can easily manage that gap back a little bit more. But it's still 10 seconds in the grand scheme of things. Endurance racing isn't that too big of a gap. That can always be shaken up by different kind of incidents or different kind of ways of managing the traffic, or even pit stops. We still have like an hour and 50 minutes to go at this race, hour and 40 minutes. So 10 seconds is, sure, it's big in a sprint race form, but in an endurance race, it can be just like they're right behind you in the grand scheme of things.
Definitely is, and we can get the back room perspective now, because we've got the manager of the Back Pain and Eye Strain GT3 team coming in. Welcome Vincent into the booth. Vincent, welcome to the booth, mate. Obviously manager for the Back Pain and Eye Strain racing team. Just take us a little bit how your race is going at the moment, and then just give us a little bit of background into your own team and how you're running the race without giving too many tactics away.
Yeah, right now our race, just a little over an hour in, so everyone's gotten through their first stops, and we had Vernon in the car for the first stint, and he sort of he's the newest member of our team, and he ran really well. A couple hiccups here and there, but I mean, I heard you guys mentioning it with Sector 3. It's really tight and twisty, and everybody wants the same section of the track, so hiccups are going to happen, and it's really just about managing, what you can with the traffic and trying to minimize mistakes. And we're up from where we qualified, so there's not too many complaints. Zach's in the car right now, and Zach, between all three of us, likes Fuji the best, and he's going to town and making up some time. So really for us right now, we knew it was going to be a little bit of a struggle with the BMW, because Fuji really likes to eat up tires, and the BMW also really likes to eat up front tires. And right now, we're just hoping, if we can stay in the top 10 here and just score some solid points to carry us through the rest of the season, we'll be happy.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, you were mentioning there, and I'd like to talk about the calendar, if I may. Obviously, looking at the calendar out there, it's very much a fast course followed by a tricky technical course followed by a fast course. Have you noticed that, and how are you approaching that sort of aspect of this championship?
We didn't really notice too much the types of courses. Although looking at the calendar, you are right. We have Daytona, which again was a very fast course, followed by Fuji, which is cars want the downforce. There's really technical. And then we have Le Mans, which I know is going to be a personal favorite, at least for myself. And then Motegi, again, a very technical course. So yeah, I mean, looking through it now, we did notice that. I know what was really attractive to us three was we looked through the calendar and we all were just like, we really like a large majority of these tracks. I know Motegi is a personal favorite for Zach. Le Mans is a personal favorite for me. And then Watkins is a personal favorite for both Zach and I. The only track we weren't too sure about with the BMW, because we all really like the BMW, is Spa, because we've tried to run the BMW at Spa before, and it's very similar to what we learned here at Fuji, is that Spa wants to eat up your front tires, and the BMW also wants to eat up your front tires. So coming towards the stint where you got a double, it's going to be a lot of tire management just to get through, because it's a little difficult.
Yeah, it's obviously getting into the end of that stint, isn't it? I suppose it makes it slightly easier now that the tyres get changed at the same time of refueling the car. So I suppose it takes a little bit of the pain away from what tyres am I going to change? Am I going to change all 4, or am I just going to change 2? So I suppose that's the only consideration that you've got to take into account, isn't it, really? If I can change 2 or 4 tyres, it's not the fact now of if I change 4 tyres, it's going to add 20 seconds to my pit stop time. I suppose that's iRacing has handed us a gift there, I suppose, to be able to take that out of the strategy race. But there's still a lot that goes into the strategies. We're seeing a few more here. We've seen first place, the Imperial Motorsports team. Every other GT3 car in that last pit stop was doing 35 seconds pit stop. They decided to do a 21-second pit stop, which really throws out their strategy from the rest of the field in the GT3. I suppose when it comes down to strategies in these endurance races, it's what are you going to do as a team to be able to maximize your chances of scoring the best points?
Yeah, actually, what Tempest is doing there in first with the short first stop, I'm personally intrigued to see what's going to happen, because I know we tried to pit off sequence at Daytona, because Daytona is very notoriously light on the tires, and it half worked out for us. We ended up getting caught in a group of cars and couldn't maximize our gains on the first stint. But obviously Tempest, you said they're leading, so they're not going to have that issue. I know we played around with a couple options going into this race, but I also think that a lot of the field is going to be on a very similar strategy, just because you had the freedom to play around with maybe trying to even out stints at Daytona just because it was very light on the tires. You don't have that leeway here with Fuji, because Fuji really eats up the tires, and I personally am expecting a lot of teams just to try and extend out those 3 stints, the 2 pit stops and the starting stint, as far as they can go, just to sort of minimize the amount of time they have to spend on just trash tires at the end of the race.
Yeah, definitely.
So
sorry.
I'm interested to see how that works out for Tempest, just because from what we were finding, it should be very difficult on that second stint if they are trying to even out those stints there.
Yeah, it definitely is. Obviously, if you're in the LMD, easy car choice. LMP2, easy car choice. The GT3 is so diverse with the cars that you've got to choose from. Just tell us how you came to the decision to use the BMW across, say, the Audi or the Lambo or the Porsche. Just let us know what your thought was when you picked the BMW for this series.
Yeah, I mean, our team is for back pain and eye strain. There's more than just the 3 of us in the team, but we have been running the BMW very regularly for, I'd say, almost since it came onto the service. It's a lot of us we like the stability of the BMW, and obviously you take your lumps at tracks like Fuji, where having the extra cornering ability is very beneficial, and having a car that doesn't like to chew through front tires is very beneficial. But when it comes there, we sort of have a short list of cars that anytime we're looking at doing one of the special events or looking at doing a racing series, that we sort of go through, that we know that we all like to drive. And when you have, because as much as it's sort of fast track, technical track, it's a very diverse range of tracks, even within that sort of subset. And when you have a schedule where you're sort of going to be getting a bit of everything, we just wanted to fall back on the car that we all know that we love to drive, and we all know how to make it do what we want when it comes to setup, building, and whatnot. So
definitely. I mean, I think that's probably I think the BMW, if I was to choose a car in a diverse season like this, I think the BMW certainly would be my car of choice. I think it's become one of the big all-rounder cars to be able to choose from. The next thing I want to look at is your team name, Back Pain and Eye Strain Racing Team. Great name. Is that because you maybe all of an aging nature, or is there other reason why you chose that name?
No, the funny thing is, actually, when it comes to, like, you mentioned age and nature, we're fairly young guys. It's just that we sort of, it's really just it's a large group of friends. Like it's a very small team. There's probably 8 of us, and we've all been doing this for a while, and we were all just like, all right, well, what if, like, what are something that, because we love endurance racing, and we're just like, all right, after 12 hours, 24 hours, 8 hours, 3 hours here, what hurts? And you know, your eyes if you've been doing the long haul and spotting when you're not in the car and you've been around for a while, your eyes start getting tired. And we wanted to go with something else other than back, but we didn't think that that we'd be allowed to. So back pain it was, and it rolls off the tongue. And every time we have to say it, anytime we sort of sign up for a league, we always get a couple laughs, and we're having fun.
Well, I think that's the main thing in these events, certainly these long events. If you're with a bunch of team that's well gelled, and you can have a little bit of fun as well, it keeps it a little bit more entertaining. But currently in P2, you're not that far behind P7 team break fade, so very much you're trying to clamber him down. Are you next in the car, are you, Vincent?
No, I'm not going to be driving for this race. We thankfully we got 3 people, and we all sort of we have it semi planned out. We're just like, well, we know Zach wants to be in the car for Fuji and Motegi. He loves those tracks. I definitely want to be in the car for Le Mans and Watkins, and thankfully Zach despises Le Mans. So having the 3rd driver gives us a little bit extra flexibility, and I know we want to shoot for 2 drivers in each race, just because it makes it a little bit easier on the setup. And also a lot of us find that, you know, the longer we spend in the car, the more of a rhythm we start to get in, the better we start doing. So just going with only 2 drivers makes it easy prep, and it lets whoever's spending more time in the car get in a rhythm and just get going.
Yeah, it definitely is. Well, we'll let you get back to your eye strain, being probably the spotter for the entire 3 hours of the race, mate. But before we let you go, mate, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
I know one person we wanted to give a shout out to was we have a friend who they wanted to go by their tag, Minky. She made the livery for us because well, we may like to think that we're great drivers. None of us pretend that we're good artists. So
no, that's great. Well,
thanks for the chat, guys.
Yeah, good luck in the race, mate, and we'll see how much you can make inroads. Cheers, Vincent.
Cheers.
There was Vincent there, obviously the team manager for Back Pain and Eye Strain Racing Team. It's always interesting, isn't it, Owen, in these longer races, is the back staff. You've got the drivers on track, you know, they get talked about a lot, how they're doing, you know, they're fast paced. But in these endurance races, a lot of it is behind, is with the back room staff, as I like to call them, you know, looking at the strategies, looking at, right, come in now, you're going into a lot of traffic, really feeding the drivers to be able to give them the best opportunity to make the best result that they can do in the race.
Yeah, for sure. The strategists are very, very important when it comes to these endurance races, especially when it's multi-class. When it's just solo classes, it's a little bit more easier to get the grip. It's more just a fact of pitting, changing the tyres, and get back out there and being as quick as you can. But here is more, as you said, about managing that traffic and picking your gaps of where the clean air is, and you know how much fuel you can take to get to the end of the race while picking that gap as well. So the strategists are very important when it comes to multi-class. I know from personal experience from my races in multi-class races that they are very, very helpful. So, you know, especially as a driver, you take your mind away off the strategy. You just focus on the task ahead, which is lapping as quick as you can, and you know, setting the fastest lap times you can while managing the traffic the best you can as well. So yeah, shout out to all the strategists out there for the race today, because they are definitely a big part of the race.
Yeah, it definitely is. If you want to come in for a chat, guys, then please put yourself in the interview waiting area, and we'll endeavour to get whoever comes in and wants to have a chat about themselves and about their team. So looking out on track. But, you know, one of the things and one of the people that, or the organisations that make these leagues happen are the sponsors. Penguin RC Simulation is the main sponsor of this TES 2023 Team Championship. They make all various things for sim products, such as USB steering wheel boxes, USB button boxes, transmission controls, made for SimCube and many other makes such as Fanatec. So head over to penguinrc.com and probably enhance your user experience by buying one of their wonderful products that they can give you. And a big thank you for them for sponsoring this season, should I say, not just this race, this season. So a big shout out to you, Penguin RC. So go over to penguinrc.com and see what wonderful toys you can add to your sim rig. But currently looking at Cody Cosgrove, the Penguin RC simulation there, running around in 6th place, up 2 positions from where he started. So another good day in the office. I'm just having a look at the changes in positions, and there's not been a massive amount of changes within the field. I think the biggest gainer out on field is currently Zachary, the back pain and eye strain team that we were just watching, up 4 places from where they started, and that is in the GT3 class. The biggest position gain in the LMDH class is 4 place, just as I say that, from CMS.com Racing Pro Team. They're up 4 places from where they started to into P5, so P5, yeah, P5, I don't know, into P5. So they're doing a great day. But I was just looking back at the GT3 class, and Imperial Motorsports, obviously, that were leading the race after their short one, they have already come in for their second stop. So this is where we were saying about the outer strategy of the Imperial Motorsports team. And it's always good, Owen, to see a team try something different rather than sort of following what the rest of the field does. Trying to maximise what they can possibly do. And at the moment, you can see on the track map, he's got a decent amount of space to be able to put in some fast laps now. He's got a couple of LMDH cars behind him, but they will make light work of him, and he'll be able to get back on pace. You can see him here just coming through turn number 3, the Coca-Cola corner, and there's a sizable gap in front of him to the next GT3 car, so he's going to be able to just get the lines he wants to, get the lap times he wants to in the car with Matt Quinn to be able to maximise his space. So it's going to be interesting to see, come after the last stint, what they can do.
Yeah, for sure. It's a very interesting time to pit as well. You'd imagine that they go and stretch it all the way to, like, just before the 2-hour mark. Again, that's what most of the guys did with the first hour mark. But yeah, very interesting to see them pit very early on. Maybe it's a kind of half stint or double half stint in a way to kind of pick the, as I said before, pick the lines or the free airspace in the traffic and maximise that stint the best they can, which can work. I've seen it personally. There's been a lot of examples where people have used it to kind of double half stint as almost like a full stint in a way where they pick their areas in the traffic which is best for them, and it tends to work. So yeah, we'll see when it comes up to the 2-hour mark of when that if that works out for them. But as I saw as well, I saw Obsidian Racing Future into the pit lane, as well as RD Simsport 2 as well. So the LMDH is making their second set of pit stops already. RD Simsport in the lead. Currently not pitted as well. They went the long game in the first round of pit stops as well. So yeah, I mean, it's very interesting to see what different strategies we have as we see another moment for Static Adrenaline. Not their day at all, as they are sitting last in the BHs. Right now, number 42 car, currently 3 laps down for everyone else. But yeah, it's very interesting, different strategies pulled out there. As I said before, the H, the Obsidian Racing Future car pitting very early on, and then the Simsport. And yeah, we'll see what happens with them in the later stages.
Yeah, definitely will be. As it's all sort of constantly changing. The time and turn positions are changing. You only really get a true indication of where the drivers are on their final stint. So you can see who's had the best strategy throughout the 3-hour event. Only really comes into play once all the drivers have come through that last pit stop. So it's really interesting and intriguing part of endurance racing. The pit stop strategies, and it's like I said before, it's a race in itself. The pit stops, how you approach it. I mean, we've seen quite a few of the other league races that I've been in, and the pit stops really throw in a spanner when it comes to how the teams play out at the end of the session, and this will be even more so because you're talking about 3, possibly even 4 pit stops within the 3-hour session. We're currently tipped over the hour and a half mark here, hour and 35. The guys have done 68 laps at the moment in this race, and it's hard to see where the drivers coming. You can see the LMD. Who's that? That's Obsidian Racing Future there in second place, going a bit slow, isn't it? Let's have a look.
Yeah, it's not good for their pit strategy at all. They were currently around 8 seconds back when they made their first pit stop. It's coming around on the slower corners. Does the front end buy up too much, or does he get a little bit? Oh, okay, that's not gonna be very nice for their floor. That sucks for Obsidian Racing Future. They're definitely running over that curve. It's going to cause them maybe a little bit of damage as we see iRTES Sport into the pits now. But yeah, as you were saying, Andy.
Yeah, no, that's a classic one, wasn't it? The Obsidian team push in as hard as they can to try and minimise the gap between RD Sim Sports in front. Taking that inside of turn number 15, got them off balance, pushed them out to the outside, got onto the yellow sausage curbs, and as you said, these LMD cars really do not like big bumps. So lost a good couple of seconds there, did Obsidian Racing Future. It'd be interesting to see when RD Sim Sports comes out of the pits, just to see how much Obsidian Racing Future did lose by that slight little incident here, as we got CMSRacing.com Ghosts having an alternate line through. I think he's trying to do 10, 11 and 12 there, the alternate layout for this Fuji course. Probably interesting that they didn't use that part of the circuit. Probably thought it was going to be too many incidents using that sort of like chicane bit coming around turn number 10. But getting it slightly wrong there, Kevin of CMSRacing.com Ghosts. They are currently now sat in the position that they started the race on, P11 class.
Yeah, as we've seen, it's pretty much from turn 10 onwards where most of the incidents are occurring. Like nowhere else have we seen a big moment apart from traffic, moments where she's sending it the wrong way or whatnot in that section. But yeah, going back onto Obsidian Racing Future again, one of our closest battles in terms of on track for top positions there. Yeah, I think that's going to cost them a lot again as they see him come around the ever so swinging right-hander there. RD Sim Sport, they are now 17 seconds ahead, so again 10 seconds from Obsidian Racing's little moment there, which is, yeah, I'm sure one's going to be kicking himself about, but yeah, still a long way to go. We're just over halfway mark, so hopefully you can regain some momentum back in that car, but with RD Sim Sport's pace at the minute, it's, yeah, it's pretty unbeatable at the minute.
Yeah, it certainly is. They are out front. Literally, you can set their own pace. Did have probably felt a little bit of pressure from the Obsidian Racing Future, but that's sort of gone away by the wayside now. Got 16, near enough 17-second lead, so don't really need to make any ambitious moves, passive moves. They've got time in the bank now. It's just a case of managing the rest of the race. They've got an hour and 20 minutes of this race to go, so still plenty of time for incidents to take place and incidents to go out on track. So it's certainly not over for a long way. You can sort of see there the 4.5 second gap from that incident between the second place Obsidian Racing Future there. That's really what's caught or affected Obsidian Racing Future. 4.5 seconds gained in one lap is a large amount of time, and that's why the gap has obviously grown to nearly 17 seconds at the start of the year at the front of the LMD2 class. Not that far behind now is RD Sim Sport 2, so we could see round 2 of the Obsidian Racing Future and RD Sim Sport 2 battle that we saw earlier on in the first stint. So I'll be looking forward to seeing that again, because that certainly got a bit spicy at certain parts. But let's have a look further down the field then. Tempest Sim Sports currently leading out your LMP2 class. Out in front to the tune of 14 seconds over the 100 Force, who have 9 seconds on hand with RD Sim Sport 3 in that first position. So 100 Force pretty much had the quiet race, was in a little bit of a battle earlier on, but that battle sort of fizzed out by a mistake from the other team, and it's pretty much on his own at the moment, just going around the track. But it's just interesting to watch the nature of the cars now, Owen, is that the cars are a lot more slidey. What's what's the temperature at the moment, Amelia? Is it actually increased or is it come down? So it's actually come down by the tune of around about 12 degrees of temperature. So we're currently at 4:54 in the evening here in the sim. So the temperature of the track is going down, but the tyre wear and the model wear that iRacing have now got on these tyres, the cars are a lot more slidey. You can certainly see that effect when they're coming around turn number 15. They are certainly sliding out, but currently during this battle for P8 on the class between marginally above average sim racers and Can-Am Racing, having a little bit of a drag race down to turn number 1. Can-Am Racing just going around the outside, managing to get that move duck there. The Porsche, I wasn't expecting that because the Porsche is normally excellent on the brakes coming into a corner, but wasn't able to defend that line through Can-Am Racing. So Can-Am Racing up to P8 in that GT3 cast, but I'm pretty sure marginally above average sim racers, it's not over yet. Only 0.2 of a second behind. As trying to see who that was behind. Is that Batman? Oh, that was our leader, I believe. That's now just lapped the marginally above average races. So there's our leader, Tempest Sim Sports 101, just in between this battle, which will enable Can-Am Racing to try and get a little bit of a leap over there. But I'm pretty sure that will come back together as soon as P1. Yeah, there you go. Gives the inside line into turn number 13 to be able to bring the battle back together again.
Yeah, indeed. Again, traffic management is very crucial here with the LMDH passing them. And again, even if you're a back marker, traffic management with the cars that are up ahead of you is very crucial as well to your own personal race. And going back to the leaders as well, it seems like the RB Sim Sport 4 car has actually lost a bit of time to the Tempest Sim Sport car ahead. So interesting how that's kind of changed around, as we see Chad in line on one car, blitzing past the Lamborghini there. It seems doesn't need to do too much there to kind of fight off, as we see even going down to turn 1. Let's see if the Porsche is as good in the brakes as we think it might be. And down to turn 1, very, very long turn 1 here. Squeezing too much. 56 tries to go around the outside. Doesn't do it, and that move seems done dusted for marginally above average sim races there. But I do notice as well, we have David Anderson in the interview waiting ready to be brought in. We'll bring him in shortly and have a few words of him about the series and the behind-the-scenes nature of this sim racing league. So yeah, it's.
Do you want to have a chat with David, or do you want me to do it, mate?
We can share questions. I think that'd be a good idea.
Share questions. Let's do that. Let's bring David into the box. Welcome, David, into the comms box. Hope you're enjoying the race at the moment. What's your take on the race so far?
Yeah. Hey guys, can you hear me? Okay.
We sure can.
Yeah, I'm loving it. You know, it's enjoying the broadcast and listening to you guys. And, you know, I have to admit, I'm a bit surprised. The attrition has been very low. I think we may only have one car, the Longhorn Racing team, that's retired so far.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, it's certainly been it's been hard for the drivers. I mean, I just want to take you back to what, you know, my impression of the calendar was, and just to see if my impression was there, as we see the Simmers.com Pro Racing again, like I was saying, getting it a little bit slidey coming out of turn number 15 there. Very technical part of track. But I want to go back to the calendar. Obviously, was it a conscious decision to have almost like a slipstream fest track followed by a technical track followed by a slipstream, or is that just coincidence?
I think it's more coincidence, but what we did do is we wanted to mix in a theme, and so we picked a couple of tracks in the Asian, you know, APAC range, which ended up being this race here at Fuji and then Motegi. And then the way James Andrew on our team does all the scheduling and the way that it sort of ended up working out is kind of to your point. We've got kind of some free-flowing tracks and then some more technical tracks, which I think is going to really make it exciting.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it just focuses the driver's mind, so you've not got all the slipstream track first and then followed by the technicals. It's mixing it up. And when I looked at it and I first saw the schedule of what you guys had put out, I thought that's an interesting schedule with the fact that you've got the slipstream. So like the next round, for instance, we go to Le Mans, which is very much the bread and butter for these LMDH and the LMP2 cars. So, expect some big slipstream effects and passing opportunities there. And then I saw like the Fuji and then the Motegi, and sort of including Watkins Glen in a way, were very technical tracks that, adds a little bit of spice to the calendar, because it's not just a slipstream series, it's slipstreams, but also technical tracks like Fuji here, and understanding and putting a little bit more pressure onto the cars for traffic management.
Yeah, absolutely. And we this is our third season now with the series, and we try to make sure that we have some mainstays on the calendar, which tend to be Daytona, Le Mans, Spa. But like last year, we did Phillip Island. This year we've added these two, APAC, venues with Fuji and Motegi, and to just kind of keep guys on their toes, have them, get an opportunity to experience some new things. And also, like with Fuji, it was a newer track on the system, and we wanted to give people the ability to enjoy it.
Well, I suppose that is the way, isn't it? It's all about the enjoyment. We had just had one of the team captains in from the back pain and eye strain racing, and one of the things that really keeps people engaged in these type of series is the enjoyment factor. And I think the setup you had here, I was with you all of season 2, which was an excellent season, and I see you're staying with the times, adding a new car class into this series, which seems to be a very popular car on iRacing. So always trying to expand and make the series as relevant based on what is the in thing at the moment in iRacing, and it keeps it relevant. But talk to us a little bit about the series itself, how it got off the ground, where you're looking at taking it, and what are the big things about your series that you want to get to our viewers?
Yeah, so we've been super happy with the series, and especially with our partnership with Apex now in season 2 and into season 3 here. We'll be with you guys for all 6 rounds. Really the intent of this series, Champion Motorsports or CMS Racing, is a really large sim racing community. We've been around since the late 90s. We've got several thousand members. We've got racing 7 days, 7 nights of the week, if you will, across all of the platforms. So not just iRacing, but R Factor, Assetto Corsa, etc. And what we do with this series is originally, Andy, it was meant to be kind of a marketing type of deal, where we could bring in a couple of sponsors, we could use it to kind of drive the brand and awareness, and that's kind of what it has been. But it has really turned into just a really highly competitive series as well. We've got a lot of the top esports teams in it, and I think we just want to see it to continue to be fun for everybody and accessible, because you've got beginners on the track and you've got seasoned pros here, and everything in between, and we want to make it very accessible for our members.
Yeah, I was just saying, it's very good that you have such a diverse range of different, different people and different drivers in there. Of course, I myself am a driver in iRacing as well, and I recognise a lot of these names from quite a high level in iRacing as well, and obviously some new guys that are making a good impression as well. It's always good to have that good balance, and I think this series has definitely achieved that. But what I also wanted to ask was, how does like the management process of this whole series come together? Like, is it like a huge team of you guys coming together and brainstorming these ideas, or is it like for a race weekend? What is the process like of managing a league such as this?
Yeah, so we have, for this series specifically, this is one of 3 divisions that we have within iRacing, and I have really the whole reason that CMS works the way it does for such a large community is I have a phenomenal team of admins and leaders within the community, and that's across all of the disciplines of racing, so the R Factor stuff I talked about, etc. But we have, there's a team of 3 dedicated admins to this series that kind of do the planning, months in advance, get the schedule out there. We work with sponsors to get them recruited. So we have 2 great sponsors in Penguin RC and SimRace247.com this season. And, we set the schedule, we get it out there in advance. And, the teams do have to pay to be in this series, but it's more of a cost recovery thing. It helps us with, to pay for the broadcasts as well as do some prizes and things like that. But it's very intentional, to answer your question. We do a lot of planning in advance, and there's all the guys behind the scenes that you may not see that make this thing happen.
Yeah, for sure. Of course, that old phrase, teamwork makes the dream. Okay, so yeah, it's all good to
Yep.
see that this this league is put together really well, and the races are well organised. They're going with the live stewarding, brings in such a great factor in and makes it a lot more real, which is again what these drivers are wanting to achieve. And someone like me who's well loves to race on the sim wants to achieve as well that realism, and I think this series has definitely captured that.
Yeah, and it's sort of loosely based after the World Endurance Championship, and I think what makes us unique, if there's one thing I'd leave with you guys, is that accessibility part of it. We don't, at CMS, we've always had kind of a nomenclature that everybody is welcome, all skill levels. All we expect for you to be is an adult and mature and pro, a pro as a person, right? And the one thing we ask of you when you're on the track is hold your line, and there's always going to be somebody out there to race with at your skill level. So I think what kind of makes this series so fun for me is I get to see guys at the very top end of the pointy level, and also the guys who are learning, and they're all out here together, and nobody is prevented from having a good time, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's what it's all about. But obviously, one of the big things, and you mentioned it there about, is the sponsors. So I'm going to give you the opportunity to shamelessly plug your sponsors here, because I think without the sponsors addition to a lot of these leagues, they wouldn't happen, because not only is their main course of business all about the sim racing, so selling the gear, but it's also about giving back to the sim racing community as well. So just tell us a little bit about your two main sponsors, mate.
Yeah, thank you for that, Andy. I'll start with simrace247.com. Great website. It's a blog news portal for all things sim racing. Darren and his team over there have been longtime partners with us here at CMS. They are the primary sponsor for our Wednesday night North American GT3 Sprint Series. And we do kind of a co-branding deal. All of our race recaps are on their website. They're sort of exclusively published there, and we help drive traffic, obviously, with our large community, and just a great website. I'd encourage everybody to bookmark it, take a look at what they have to offer. It's kind of a fun place to stay up to date on all things sim racing. So that's the first one. The second is our title sponsor, and I'm pleased that they're back for the third season in a row. That's Penguin RC Simulation. So Brian Sohn and his team really make all this happen from they help us with prize pools, which are tremendous for our drivers. They get some brand awareness out of it as well. And they actually have a couple of teams in the series as well from a marketing perspective for them. So, and with Penguin, if you're not sure what they do, they make a lot of great sim racing gear. So button boxes, wheel additions. So give them a look. Some really high quality stuff from Brian and the team there.
Yeah, it definitely is. And without them, it's true that a lot of these events wouldn't take off, because a lot of the drivers enjoy getting on track and doing it. They're all in it for the prizes, really, in the money. So big thanks
Right.
to our sponsors to be able to offer the prizes for all these top pro drivers to itch out to make their rigs even more bigger than what they probably already are. So go over to penguinrc.com to have a look at the game, and simracing247.com as well for them guys as well, and big thank you to them. But Dave, you sitting back there enjoying the racing, and what's your predictions? I'm gonna get you to call out here. We've got just tipping over to the 2-hour mark. What's your predictions for each of the classes, mate?
Yeah, I was looking at practice. We had the free practice 1 and free practice 2 leading up to today, and the iRTES Sim Sport guys were really, really quick across all 3 categories. So, they're kind of who I have my eye on. In LMDH for sure. They've kind of been out there from the beginning. I think they're going to be hard to chase down. We're also missing Satellite Racing, who is our 2-time defending series champions. They are not here this week. Unfortunately, couldn't get the team together to be here. So I think that's going to open up things in the championship battle in the DH category. Tempest Sim Sport has really shown to be kind of the class of the field in LMP2, which is interesting that there's so much separation there, because the rest of that class is there's a lot of tight battles. And then it's hard to say what's going to happen in GT3. I think it could be anybody's race there, but I'm going to go with one of the iRTES Sim Sport teams as well this week at Fuji.
So RD Sim Sports 1, 2, and 3 near enough then, eh?
Yeah, they definitely, Rob and his team, Rob runs a large, running a bunch of different series, and they've got a large team. He's the team manager for RD Sim Sport, and just can't thank them enough for, I think they've got 4, maybe 5 teams in our series. I'm just excited to have them.
Yeah, definitely is. Owen, have you got any final questions you want to ask David before he goes?
No, that's it from me. Just again, thanks for putting this all together and giving us a good show.
Yeah, hey, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me, and I'll enjoy the rest of the race, and excited to have you through the rest of the season.
Yeah, definitely is, David. And would you like to give a shout out to anyone before we let you go?
Yeah, I just want to thank you guys. I think thank you for doing this for us. The presentation comes across great, and it makes it just kind of adds a whole nother layer of immersion. And appreciate you, being real pros for us and putting your best into each event, and really matters to us. So thank you.
Thanks, and we do try, and I'll give you the money for picking us up after the race. Cheers,
Enjoy
David.
the rest of it, guys. Take care.
Cheers,
Bye-bye.
So there was David there, obviously the owner and the main proprietor for this whole series in front of us. A great chap, and go and have a look at their website as well, CMS. Like you said, it's not just iRacing, it's pretty much every sim racing platform that they do, and it's all about, Owen, it's about getting the young blood in through the doors, because as soon as you get them into the league racing, you get what is called the unpredictability, I say, of the official series that iRacing have. But it's a completely different ball game, as we're watching 100 Force there, who was in second place in that LMP2 class, just having a little bit of a spin, and he's got a slight bit of damage. It looks like he's not damaged the car too much, but it's all about getting them young blood in, isn't it, Owen? It's getting them through the doors, getting them used to the league racing, to show the difference that league racing is compared to the official iRacing, and that's how you grow any sort of league. You've got your top pro drivers, yeah, it's fair enough, but the meat and gravy of any sort of league or season is the mid-pack to lower pack racers that know they haven't got an opportunity to make the wins, as we that's our first place in the GT3, having a bit of an issue, and that wasn't commentator curse, that was Dave. But let's have a look at what happened here. Wow, there's this is turn number 15, going around the final bend.
Oh yeah, just hanging out too much on the left-hand side. A little bit too much trail, similar to what we saw earlier on with the MBH. Too much trail on the brakes, and the front end goes around, and followed by the rear end slipping around as well. So yeah, that's dropped them way back down the order, well, down the timing order at least, down to 4 seconds rather than 11. So, yeah, with the gap that Paolo built on the RDC Sport 4 car, I'm sure he can build that up again with no issues. But yeah, to talk about what you were saying as well, yeah, for sure. I mean, I know from my own personal experience from, being in Apex Racing Prototype League in NMP2, I think for 2 seasons in a row, I think I was in there. That was my first real taste of actual, proper racing and getting used to that kind of environment of more professional and that environment rather than just official races where you're just thrown in. And yeah, it definitely helps. It definitely helped me get used to that kind of environment, to where now I race in the likes of BMW Sim Cup or special events. It really did kind of nurture that kind of that skill to be able to handle them type of events and be able to show what I can do. So, and similar with these young drivers and newer drivers in these kind of leagues, it's really preparing them for what could be if they tend to go on further into different leagues, into different events. It can for sure help, and I'm sure we can see a few of these guys at the top level of esports, especially the leaders of these classes in no time.
Definitely is. We've got watching a battle on track here between Imperial Motorsports and Tupac Racing. Great move up the inside. I'm not sure what Lamborghini is flashing in there, because I thought that was an exceptional move coming into the last corner. Just got the car on the inside planted and managed to get that position. Obviously, Imperial Motorsports having a bit of a different tactic than the rest of the GT field. Just a 23-second first stint pit stop. Was already pitted for their second stint. They've managed to get themselves back up into third place, were the leaders after the second round of pit stops. All the GT3 cars now have pitted for their second stints, and looks like Imperial Motorsports has done a great deed for themselves. Up one position from where they started, out of sequence in the pit stop, so they will be coming in probably within the next, I would say, 20 minutes that these guys will be coming in. But that should be their final stint, so it may work out for them yet, whereas every other driver will have to do a stint, just sort of almost like a splash and dash at the end of the race. So it'll be important to see where Imperial Motorsports, whether that earlier pit stop from them really pays off. But at the moment they're in a bit of a battle between Two-Pack Racing, as we can see on screen. A little bit of a gap in front, around about 6 seconds to RD Simsport 4 on the front end of that GT3 field, and then around about 5 seconds back to Sim Racing PR in 5th place. So these two having a little bit of a battle on their own. So it should be interesting to see. Obviously the Imperial Motorsports will have more worn tyres on that Audi compared to the Lambo, but may be able to at the moment be able to utilise that well worn in rubber on that Audi to try and get away from the Lamborghini driver behind. But these two are locked in a battle for that last podium place in the GT3 class.
Yeah, for sure. That's what I was speaking about earlier, and as you said before with the Imperial Motorsports strategy, I feel like they're going to, when they do end up hitting, I think they're going to come out literally just behind maybe the Sim Racing PR machine to roughly around 5th place, so it could work out beneficial for them because, yeah, a lot of these drivers in the GT3s will have to make that final splash and dash roughly around 10 or so minutes before the end. So, yeah, they're going to see how that shakes things up, and, yeah, it'll be really beneficial for those that pitted later on in the race because then they're obviously splash and dash is a lot shorter, and I know that the 10% car, I think, pitted, as we see here, on their pit stop lap. This is for LMDH, I believe. Yes, it is. That's for LMDH, but for the GT3s as well, I know they pitted a bit sooner than the RD Sport car, and that's only a 5-second gap. So that could be definitely made up in that little splash and dash towards the end there. So it's not over yet for them too, as the leading RD Sport car gets very close to the Audi there, and that, oh, that almost sent shivers down my spine for a little tap for it for that RD Sport car there. But yeah, I feel like the as we see there with the pit stop strategy lap as well, yeah, different kind of strategies playing into effect then, possibly making it a bit more easier for the final runners to have a better run at the splash and dash there at the end. But the RD Sport car and the lead of LMDH, I feel like have had a really solid run throughout the entire race, but Brazilian Racing's just breathed down the neck of them a little bit there, catching about 5 seconds for the last pit stop. So, you know, I think roughly about 2 or 3 more pit stops to go. There could be another shake-up in terms of the order for them too as well. But it seems like RD Sport has it much covered in the MDH field.
Yeah, it certainly does, and it has passed that hour mark, so let's have a quick rundown of the current positions in all of the classes. So RD Simsport pretty much been out from the get-go here, not being challenged at the moment. In second place we got Obsidian Racing, featured 12.2 seconds, was closing that gap but had that slight incident coming around turn number 15, which has really put pace to them, put them on the back foot again. But you can sort of see there what I was earlier explaining, the cars, the back end sort of sliding around a lot more in these LMDH cars. These tyre wear around this track is probably quite brutal on the tyres, certainly this sector 3 on there. But RD Simsport currently leading the way in the LMD class. So Obsidian Racing Future in second, like I said, 12.8 seconds behind them. Pretty much in no man's land themselves, 13 seconds behind number 1 and round about 19 seconds ahead of P3, which is RD Simsport number 2 team. In 4th place we got Pneumatic Motorsport Blue. With 5th place we got We Too Fast Racing, around about 18 seconds behind them. Then we have Penguin RC LMDH in 6th place, a lap down. SimHQ Motorsports Orange, a lap down, with CMSRacing.com Pro a lap down in P8. Then 4 laps down, not having the best of time, is the Organisation Pro team, 4 laps down, along with the Static Adrenaline team. But it's good to see that they're continuing going on and looking like they're going to finish the race here. So we're getting some valuable experience behind the wheel of that car, so I'm not sure the experience of the drivers of that one. But heading over to the LMP2 class, Owen.
Yeah, so of course we have 10% Sport still in the lead by a long margin. 25 seconds is the gap between 10% Sport and RD Sim Sport as well. With yeah, the 10% Sport car doing a fantastic job, it must be said, to keep making that gap no matter what the cost. So yeah, they're doing a great job out there in P1. Of course, RD Sim Sport number 3 is in second place with a again similar thing to No Man's Land with the Obsidian car in P2 as well. They have roughly about a 50-second gap to the guys behind in Sim HQ Motorsports Red in P3, followed by 100 Force, who starts up our lappers for the LMP2 class, followed by Long Haul Racing 2, Blue Shell Racing, Sim Republic SR3, and the Organisation Pro Am, who is actually in the pits as we see in our overlay there, and the Organisation Amateur. Both cars of the Organisation crew not having the best of days out there today, with a couple of incidents and a couple of pit stop mishaps here and there. So yeah, that will be a round to forget, I'm sure, for them too. But yeah, over to you, Andy, for the rest of the field.
Yeah, so the GT3 class. So in first place, we've got Tempest Sim Sports, $101. In first place, 3.6 seconds ahead of RD Sim Sports 4 team. So it could be a closing battle into the last 50 minutes of this race. In second place, like I said, RD Sim Sport 4. In third place, Imperial Motorsports on a completely different strategy than the rest of the field. The probably closest one to the strategy of them are the drivers or the team that's in fifth place, the Sim Racing PR. I think they stopped 6 laps after the Imperial Motorsports. So it's going to be interesting to see where Imperial Motorsports ends up at the end of this race. In fourth place, we've got Tupac Racing, around about 3 seconds behind the Imperial Motorsport team. So they have managed to break that toe have the Imperial Motorsports over the Tupac Racing Lamborghini car. In fifth place, we've got Sim Racing PR, around about 8 seconds behind the Tupac Racing team. In sixth place, we've got Can-Am Racing, a sizable gap behind, around about 35 seconds behind Sim Racing PR. So again, in sort of no man's land, and around about 20 seconds ahead of the Penguin RC Simulation team in 7th place. In 8th place, we've got Back Pain and Ice Train team. Obviously, we spoke to them a little earlier on, and they're really gunning for a top 10 position. And at the moment, they're doing very well there in P8 for around about 8 seconds off P7. Behind them, they've got Team Break Fade. So obviously, when we were mentioning them, they were behind them, so they have managed to leapfrog them into 8th place. So Team Break Fade there, around about 5 seconds behind the Back Pain and Ice Train Racing team. In P10th, a lap behind is a marginally above average Sim Races with Valhalla Motorsports in 11th place, with Flying Lion SG in 12th, CMSRacing.com Ghosts in P13th, Sim Republic in 14th, with Wild Juice Racecraft in P15. 3 laps down then, you have the organisation, and in 17th, we've got 2 Brother Motorsports 5 laps down, and probably the only retiree from this grid is Long Haul Racing out after 37. So yeah, around about 50 laps into the race, they decided to call it a day. But so having a grid of 37 cars to just have 1 car out after 2 hours of racing is some feat in itself, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty impressive, I've got to say, with the amount of incidents here and there we've seen. I mean, yeah, a lot of these guys are still keeping it strong and keeping it forward. You know, some people even being 5 laps down, but that doesn't stop them. They are still trying to get the most out of the car they can. And yeah, it's good to see. It's good to see a not really give up attitude. We see a lot of that in the top level of esports. If race doesn't go too well for them, it tends to just be a retirement, and that's it. And it tends to be like half the field is left. But yeah, only 1 car on that field to be out of the race is pretty impressive. But yeah, I mean, it's getting closer towards the end, it must be said, but especially with the GT3, as we're still focusing on here with the 10% Sport car followed by the RD Sport car as well. It's very, very close between them two, 4.2 seconds separates them, with still another splash and dash to go, maybe another full-length pit stop as well, so we'll see how that battle kind of length comes out as well. RD Sim Sport, again, in LMDH and lead are separated by 11.7 seconds to Obsidian Racing Future, so that gap has come down ever so slowly, but it is coming down, and there is still more pit stops to go as well. So I feel like we could have some good battles to start shaping up here towards the end.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's whether Obsidian Racing Future can get a bit of luck with passing the slower class cars to really eat into that 11.4 seconds. Still a sizable gap to be maintaining at the front end of the field, but pretty much pushing all they can to try and close it down. Probably come down, say, around about half a second in the last sort of 5-10 minutes of racing, so not any significant inroads at the moment in Obsidian Reservoir. Obviously had that slight little mistake that's really sort of costing the opportunity to close down that gap, but it's the nature of this track, isn't it? It's and the stewards haven't really had a lot to do. We haven't seen a lot of incidents flashing above the screen, but it's more about the self-spins and the self-imposed issues that the drivers had. I mean, we mentioned at the start of the broadcast is that, you know, round turn number 10 to turn 16, that is where all the issues are going to be out on track, and it's good to know that I have got some facts right here today, that that is certainly the area of the track that's been the highly congested for the incidents out on track, but it's all been about the self-spins rather than people trying to yeet it up the inside or crashing into the back of other cars, and it's sort of been a battle within the drivers themselves to be able to make sure that they get around this track in one piece without having the spins. And you can sort of see the drivers that haven't really been mentioned a lot on the broadcast are the ones that are sort of towards the top end of the field, like Pneumatic Motorsport Blue Team. You haven't really mentioned them at all, but yet they are sat there in 4th place, just merrily going along their way, putting in the regular lap times and not having incidents out on track. And that's in the endurance racing, that's half the battle. Is, yeah, you can be the fastest driver out on track, but if you can't keep it on track for that hour-long stint, then the drivers that can put in the average lap times, but constantly putting in average lap times, are going to be the ones that are going to be able to leapfrog up through the ranks. I mean, we're looking at the Pneumatic Motorsport with John Taylor. He's up 3 places from where they started. That is the biggest mover in that LMDH field. So although he hasn't been mentioned a lot, he said the whole team as a whole have just got on with their job and are just putting in the lap times lap after lap.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they've definitely done what you need to do in an endurance race, which is just have that constant pace and that constant consistency. And yeah, as you said, we haven't talked about that much, but there's been really no need to. They haven't really got themselves caught up in any too major incidents. They haven't really done anything too flashy. They've just been running their own business, as you said, lapping the car and just keeping that time constantly hitting the nail on the head. And yeah, they seem to be pretty good on strategy as well. And yeah, they didn't get too much caught up in the incidents at the beginning. Obviously, We Too Fast Racing, iRTES Sim Sport 2, Obsidian Racing Future, and iRTES Sim Sport were the main 4 contenders at the very beginning of the race to get the elbows out and start really going for it. But Pneumatic Racers have been seeing that and thinking, oh, okay, we're going to race too aggressively. We're just going to plod along and hit our average times and get you towards the end, which they have done.
Yeah, it's all about not overextending yourself, isn't it? You don't want to be overextending yourself during these endurance races, because that's when mistakes happen, and you can go from, like we've seen with many of the drivers, is go from the top end of the grid, have an incident, and then you're back down the back end. But we're joined back in here with a GT3 as if by magic, and iRTES Sim Sports have managed to capture and overtake Tempest Sim Sports. So after that earlier pit rounds, you know, mishap or whatever it was to be able to get them to lose a stint, they've literally put their head down and chipped away, and have managed to now get out in front of Tempest Sim Sport. So that was around about 4 seconds, not that long ago. So you got Josh Wiggins in the car at the moment, who's really putting in his time. I'm just having a look at the lap time. So the last lap time from iRTES Sim Sport 4 was 1:36.4. And from Tempest Sim Sport was a 1:37.62. So certainly get it. And if by magic there's Tempest Sim Sport deciding to come in for what will be their last stop of the race. This is the first GT3 car to come in for its 3rd and final stop.
I wonder whether this is a tyre issue, because they've lost so much time. Because if you remember at the very beginning of their stint, they really increased that gap to iRTES Sim Sport to around about almost like 11 or 12 seconds even. So from being super close to them around the second pit stop to them being caught up right towards the end, which I feel like, yeah, with the lap times that Paolo was producing at the end, I feel like that's more of a tyre issue. Of course, he really had that nasty spin with all 4 tyres, scraping along the tarmac, and that would have for sure damaged his tyres even more. So yeah, I wonder if that's just a thing where they thought, okay, we'll really damage the tyre wear on this car. It's really not having the pace that we want out there. Let's just box it early, get a new fresher boots on, and see what we can do on the last phase of the race, which is what I would do as well. So
It's a bit strange here. So I'm just looking at their pit stop time. They're currently at 55 seconds. They haven't gone up on the ramps to change the tyres, so I'm not quite sure what's happening here. Is this another speeding in the pit lane? So if it's around about 120, so that they haven't changed the tyres, and their pit stop was 1 minute and 4. So I think that they got caught with the speed in the pit lane. And if it was true that they were struggling on tyres, they certainly are going to be struggling on tyres another 30 minutes into this race. It's interesting.
Unless it might be a visual glitch, which happens with iRacing on some of the outboard cameras as well. Sometimes it doesn't show you lifting up the jacks quite as much. But yeah, I mean, if that is the case, then that's a very, very bold strategy. As we see RD Sim Sport coming out right ahead of them. So yeah, they've now lapped them, I'm pretty sure now, after that pit stop there. So yeah, let's see what happens when RD Sim Sport makes their pit stop. And see what they do and see where they come out on track. But yeah, very interesting to see what people are doing with strategies and how they're managing their car in this stage of the race.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure though 1 minute and 5 seconds wasn't the strategy that the Tempest SimSport team were going for. So I've got a sneaky suspicion that they might have been caught speeding in the pit lane for a time of that length through there. So you can see here, drive-through penalty for the RC. So Penguin RC LMDH for avoidable contact. Not sure if you were able to get that, Samuli, to see that incident. If we could possibly try and troll for it through the vast amounts of incidents, but I'm pretty sure, as if by magic. Here we go. Let's have a look. Let's see if it's this one.
Might have been coming down on the inside. No.
Maybe it is.
That's just, I don't know. That's...
Nah, it's just an
okay.
Oh, we can't see it. Probably earlier on anyway, and the stewards were very much looking at it to obviously probably taking their time to make the decision. Because obviously having a drive-through penalty is a long time on this track and could be really hindering. You can see them there currently in P6. There's 2 other cars that are 1 lap down. Going to take around about 30 seconds-ish, I would say, to drive through that pit lane with the pit limiter on. So there may be a change of position for them in the top of the LMDH. But looking further back now, we're looking at the Imperial Motorsport team. Just having a look if they have done their pit stop. Yes, they have. Their last pit stop was a 31.33 seconds. So just a normal one, but that will be the last one for the round. They're currently in P6, only 2 seconds behind the Penguin RC simulation team. As we can see here, just going around the last corner, driven by Brian in P5. So it could pay off for them here at the moment. Just having a look where they are. So they're a minute. It's probably around about 20 seconds, I would imagine, if it's a splash and dash in the pit. So it's going to be close if Imperial Motorsports tactic has worked out here. You can see that definitely they will leapfrog Can-Am Racing it in front of them that's 10 seconds ahead. It's whether they can leapfrog the cars that are a minute ahead of them out on track. And it's going to be close, I think, but after the last round of pit stops.
Yeah, for sure. As we see a replay here of... okay, here is the incident what happened with Penguin RC Simulation of why they got that penalty for avoidable contact. Let's have a look going to turn 1. We missed a lunge on the LMB2 that could have been avoided. I reckon so. Going down the inside. Understeers a little bit off to the left-hand side. Oh, and shoves another LMBH off the track there. Seemed to cause too much damage there for that other LMBH. I think that was the Simulator. I can't remember the name of that car. But yeah, very much died down deeply inside of turn 1 and then shoves him off wide into the exit of turn 1 there. So yeah, penalty for Penguin RC Simulation and DH for avoidable contact, and there it was.
Thank you very much, Ryan Thompson. I'll give you a shout out for time stamping that for us, for Samuli, our producer, to find that incident. So big thank you to you. Just looking at the YouTube chat, you got Mum and Chew Chaps. Love the lead, keep it up. Not a lot of chat in the YouTube, guys. Let's get the chat going. Who do you think's going to win? Have you got any message you'd like to give us to shout out? Then just put them in there. We will endeavour to get all your messages out. Let's have a real big presence in that YouTube chat for the last 40 minutes of this race. So it's all coming down now to these last pit stops. So this should be the last one from the Obsidian Racing Future. Well, I mean, what did you say the limit is on this? Around about 40 minutes, is that right, Owen?
Yeah, it seems like the fuel lasts around roughly about 45 minutes or so. Obviously that's very track dependent, but on average it's around about 45 minutes, maybe 35 minutes. So yeah, this seems to be the time where they can come in, and yeah, they probably will have to make a splash. Actually, they probably won't actually. Yeah, looking at the time, they won't have to make a splash at the very end, as we see the lead iRTES Sensible car coming into the box now. So yeah, this is the time where they will start to make their pit stops, and their final pit stops ready for the final sprint, as it were, to the end. Pretty much an IMSA race. This would be to the end now.
Yeah, it definitely is. IMSA race with rolling roadblocks called LMP2s and GT3s in the way. So you know, it's gonna be an interesting stint now, and it'd be interesting to see the final positions going into the checkered flag from the LMDH class, to be able to see the final positions, because it's all very quite hard sometimes to judge where the final positions are until after the last round of pit stops, to see if anybody's closer than what they were before all the gaps have increased. But at the moment, the RD SimSport have come into the pits. So is that all of the... No, so you've still got Penguin RC Simulation, LMDH still owing us a pit, so they are still out there, as well as SimHQ Motorsport Orange, driven by Darren Mulberry. So a couple of drivers, but the majority of that LMDH field have come in for the third and possibly their final pit stops as the leader comes back out on track. Nice, relatively easy stop for him, 31.23 seconds. So I think that is the quickest. Yes, that is the quickest pit stop in the third round of pits for the LMDH class. So that should be them for the field, and we still have a few. No, that's all the LMP2s as well, apart from the organisation amateur team. Yes, they just had their pit, so that's all the LMP2s as well. I'm pretty sure the LMP2s is normally around about half an hour for them, isn't it? So they may have to come in for a splash and dash at the end.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, roughly about, as you say, half an hour to 35 minutes is roughly about the fuel. So yeah, they're definitely going to have to come in for a splash and dash at the very end, which I think for 10% won't be too much of an issue at all, with a big 23-second lead there at the front of the field. But we'll definitely affect those in the mid pack of the LMP2s. I think we have a battle that's fairly close to the LMP2s there as well. But yeah, the RD Sport car and the LMP2 as well, which we're focusing on here, has had a fairly stable race, it must be said. They've been, well, the RD Sport number 3 car hasn't had too much of an issue with this race today. It's been kind of, you know, as we said with the pneumatic Motorsports blue car and LMDH, just hitting the lap times, hitting the average pace, and just being quite sensible, really.
Yeah, it definitely is. Just looking further down, probably the closest class at the moment is that GT3, the RD SimSport 4 team. Currently pulled out a lead, a really quick lead of 6.2 seconds. So Josh in the wheel of that BMW for RD SimSport 4 team is really putting the hammer down in that GT3 class, and that gap is, as I said, is only going up. So it's looking like the writing on the wall at the moment, but it's still time. It's still around about 38 minutes left of this race to go. 6.2 seconds, two-pack racing in second place. Sim Racing PR there in third place, around about 3 seconds off the back of two-pack racing. So they're probably the closest racing out on track at the moment, as we tend to always normally see with these GT3 cars. You get these pods of races going in as we watch the Sim Racing PR team get a bit slidey around turn number 1, and it's all going to be about what are they going to do in the final strategy. Are they just going to go to the end on what will be well-worn tyres, or are they going to change 2 of the tyres to give them a little bit more pace and possibly take that little bit of a penalty for the time to change them too? Because it will only be a splash and dash for these GT3 cars if they have to come in again. Or the other side of it, and this is the other side of the strategy, is fuel saving. So you know, if Obsidian Racing Future can just sort of maybe eke out the fuel, or maybe the LMP2 class like the RD Sim Sport 3 team, if they can save that fuel and manage to get to the end and save that pit stop, then there may be the opportunity to make the leapfrogs on there. So although Tempest Sim Sport at the top of that LMP2 class is 23.7 seconds, if they have to pit again, and I've seen it before in season 2 of these races, that somehow the car behind us managed to save the fuel and not have to do the pit stop and take the race win. So there's always these last pit stop angst for the teams to say, are the other teams around going to have to pit, or is there an opportunity for them to basically overtake us by not having to do the pit stop? So it's the backroom staff again calculating the numbers, doing the number crunching to see if the fact that everybody will have to pit again, or if there's an opportunity to get that fuel saving mode in to limit that last pit stop to try and bump yourself up a few places. So as we get into the last 34 minutes of this race, it's still all to play for, really, Owen.
Yeah, for sure. And I was just looking at the as you said, talking about strategies. Well, the pit strategy with the GT3s currently, of course, Tempest Sim Sport again pitted fairly early on with the pitting on lap 82, and the GT3s being on lap 89 currently. And yeah, the RD Sim Sport 4 car pitted on lap, I believe that is 68. So yeah, they're going to have to pit in, but they are going to have to pit for obviously less fuel. So I believe they're kind of safe to the Tempest Sim Sport car. It doesn't cause too much of a threat for them. But yeah, it seems like a fairly straightforward kind of end to the race with the GT3s here. Most of them are kind of on a different strategy, but it doesn't seem like it's going to affect most of the leaders here and there for most amount of time. But what is interesting, though, is seeing the RD Sim Sport number 4 car being put up fairly rapidly by the Supai Racing Team car. I've noticed that gap has been coming down ever so gradually, but definitely it's been coming down. It's been getting closer and closer and closer, and yeah, they seem to be quite a threat towards the end.
Yeah, it definitely is. Or it could be that RD Sim Sport is just trying to save a little bit of fuel, managing that gap when it comes down, because we've seen some extremely fast lap times from Josh Wiggins, who's currently driving that RD Sim Sport team. His last lap was a 36.21. The two-pack racing team 135.66. So he's certainly has put the hammer down in that two-pack racing team to try and close that, and that's, like you said, the gap is coming down now. It's just over 5 seconds to the RD Sim Sport who are currently watching on the broadcast. So it's going to be interesting, and what adds to that, the spice of it, is obviously when we were speaking to the back pain and eye strain racing, is that how much this BMW chews up them front tyres. So that could be coming into play now, because we did see Josh pushing extremely hard in the mid portion of this sector.
Yeah, for sure. Again, the BMW being like very front engine and very front heavy, it's going to really chew up them front tyres, especially towards that final sector where you're leaning on the walls of the tyres to keep that car in balance. So yeah, it's definitely going to be a thing for them to remember, especially towards the end of their stints here. And yeah, of course, we saw right behind the leading RD Sim Sport number 4 car, the Tempest Sim Sport car was right up the rear end of them, even though they were a lap down. So yeah, putting a bit of pressure on them, even though they're different strategies and a bit off sync, they're still putting their nose in there, thinking, you haven't got rid of us just yet. Don't start easing up a little bit. So interesting to see all the little mind games that people are playing out there, which is can be very effective.
Yeah, it definitely is. Just about to tip over for 30 minutes left in this 3-hour event here at the Fuji Motor Speedway. It's been a war of attrition, not mainly for drivers having incidents with each other. It's more about the drivers not spinning their cars. And as predicted at the beginning of the stream, the last sector is the sector where all the drivers pretty much have had all their incidents. Coming through turn 14, 15 and 16, very much seems that 3 corners that we're watching Justin just come through at the moment. This corner here really unsettles a car coming out of that corner, and then turn 16 is pretty much trying to get on that power a little bit too early, because it's all about that exit onto this start-finish straight to gain an extra couple of attempts. So that's certainly been the area of the track that's been the most most problematic for the drivers in this whole race at the moment. There's been some great racing out on track, and currently watching the 100 Force team, who were up into P2 at one stage, currently down into P4, down one position from where they started at the beginning of this race. The biggest mover in that LMD category is the first place, the RD SimSport 3 team. They are up 5 places from where they started, so a great drive for them, being in P2, just behind that Tempest SimSport at the moment. Probably a bit of a tall order to try and catch the Tempest SimSport, because they've certainly been the team of the day in that LMP2 class at the moment. But Andre there driving in the Tempest SimSport team is certainly not living on his laurels, and I've seen him a few times getting that back end a bit twitchy in that LMP2 car. He's certainly not easing off that throttle to take an easy stroll into the checkered flag. He's still pushing it out there on track.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's still giving it everything, giving it his best, and he probably isn't really a fan of this track. You know, we saw Recruiters at the very beginning, you know, really pushing the likes out of the car and really building a massive gap to the RD SimSport 3 car there. Maybe Andre's just not that, you know, either familiar or doesn't really enjoy the track as much as him, but he's definitely still doing a fine job to keep that lead as it is, and yeah, as you said, get the rear end of that car out and yeah, just show him what it can do at the rear end and still keep the lead. But yeah, it's good to see them leading for so long. I don't think they've lost the position once, apart from pit stops, and yeah, they've obviously gone up to positions and stayed there throughout the rest of the race, and been good to see by them. Good display. Same with the RD SimSport car on the LMDH. They've actually extended their gap by quite a margin now, up to 22 seconds rather than 17 when they come out the box as well. So phenomenal race by them too today. I think it's the two probably you know, brothers, or they're definitely related by some way. But yeah, they've both done an incredible job today to keep that lead how it is and not really fall under too much pressure from anything around them. And they've managed the traffic well as well, which is another key part of the whole series. And as we see a rejoin there by the Can-Am car, that got my heart racing a little bit there. As I was talking about traffic, rejoining straight into the traffic of the, I think that was the Backpain Nice Showing Racing team. Luckily was able to not cause too much of an incident, but yeah, they're all definitely doing a great job out there, especially RD SimSport leading and DH to manage the traffic well at the start and build that gap to where they want to be. See the RD SimSport number 4 car as well, still out on track, haven't pitted yet, of course, won't have to until a fair few number of laps, right until the very end. Still being caught down a little bit by 2Pi Racing team, up to 4.1 seconds down is the gap between them two cars, but as Andy said earlier on, it might be a case of just them saving fuel, keeping their tyres nice and fresh towards the end, and speaking about the same thing with the front end of the BMW as well, keeping that intact, and you know, making sure that they have it well towards the end. As we see an incident under investigation, contact between the Tempest SimSport and the RD SimSport car, 2 hours and 15 minutes into the race, so that is obviously under investigation with the stewards, and let's see what they do about that incident up above there. But yeah, RD SimSport number 4 car GT3 has definitely lost a lot of time now to the 2Pi Racing team, but yeah, I feel like he's not going to be changing tyres in the splash and dash, and making sure that they really save their tyres towards the end, and making sure they have a really successful splash and dash stint at the very end of their stint.
That could be interesting, the penalty that the stewards are looking into now, because that's the top of the LMDH, I think, and the top of the LMP2. So that could really throw the lead if it is them two cars that are being under investigation. I didn't quite catch the numbers. But if that is, that could throw a spanner into the works of one of these two teams that have had an excellent day at the racing. But probably one of the teams of the day at the RD SimSport, we did hear David saying that, you know, they are a very big team, but at the moment they're currently leading the LMDH category and the GT3, but the GT3 win is looking a bit under threat. That 2-pack racing is down to 3.5 seconds. And I said they were probably trying to manage the tyres, but this is the time that you wouldn't be holding back to manage them tyres, because that 3.5, that 2-pack racing now will be able to see the RD SimSport 4 team in front of them, and that gives you an extra little bit of a spur on to make that opportunity tell. So it's going to be interesting now to see which way that timing tower, the timing tower goes. We're sort of seeing slightly creeping up, so maybe the RDC schools are watching the broadcast and saying, yeah, they're actually right what they're saying now. We need to start putting the pedal down because we need to get that gap out in front from two-pack racing. But you can sort of see in there it's going up slightly, coming down. So it's going to be an interesting last 25 minutes of this race between them two drivers, the RD Simsport 4 team and the two-pack racing. But looking back at the front of this with the RD Simsports, was it them two involved in that incident? I'm not seeing much damage on the two cars, so I'm not sure.
I don't want to alarm anyone, but I did see, again, it might just be my feed that I'm looking at, but I did see a little bit of damage on the Tempest Simsport LMP2 car, and it was along, I believe, the left-hand side of it. So I don't know if we can see it a bit closer, whether it's just my view or not. But I definitely saw a little bit of visual damage there to the side of the car. I don't know if we have a replay of any of the incident occurred. As we're about to look here, let's see if this is it. Somebody saying that maybe this is it. As we see the RD Simsport car back there as well, and the Tempest Simsport car coming through the Coca-Cola corner. Let's see if this is the incident between the two of them that caused the incidents. To have a look at both cars here. Come down for the hairpin. Still not close enough yet to make too much of a move. I believe it will be from turn 10, if anything. Yep, getting very close to the RD Simsport car now to the rear end of the Tempest LMP2. Coming down to turn 10. Wouldn't make a move here, surely not, no. Maybe into turn 11, then start the twisty section of the last sector. Pulls out. No, doesn't seem to be that instant there between the two of them. Maybe this instant here. Okay, arguably it could be that. I mean, the rear wing of the Tempest Simsport car does seem to be a bit damaged by the little hit at that rear end. But it's just, yeah, you can see it on the broadcast there as well. Yeah, that might be the incident then. That might be the GT3 with the RD Simsport LMDH then that caused that incident under review instead.
Yeah, we'll have a look at that and see what comes. Obviously, we're trying to guess what the stewards are. They're a lot better at doing that than what we are. We just obviously talk a good game, I think, when it comes to sim racing. Leave the penalisation to the pros as such. But we are now tipping into 2 hours 37 into this race, so we're into very much the last quarter of this race now, well and truly, and we should start seeing the GT3s. It's a mixed bag really. I think half the GT3 field has pitted already, and half of them are still in a pit stop. Again, so we've got marginally above average sim racing still needs to pit. We've got Valhalla team pit needs us to pit. CMSRacing.com Ghosts. And then further back, Larry Ford in the Longhorn Racing, who's out of this race. So, yeah, we're getting into the final positions out on track, and this is by magic. There's Matthew coming in for Valhalla Motorsports for his third and final.
Yeah, we also saw the two-part racing team obviously come into the bits as well, so it'll be interesting to see where they come out in the likes of RD Simsport 4 as well. So yeah, as we see them out on track here, around about 51 seconds, as this is on my screen behind the RD Simsport number 4 car. Yeah, 51 seconds there separates them two. So yeah, let's see what happens with the RD Simsport number 4 car on when they pit. It should be, I believe, within the next 10 minutes. We'll put a number on that and hope for the best, or maybe within the next 5 minutes or so, because they did pit around the similar time beforehand. So yeah, let's see where they come out in relation to that car as well. And yeah, it seems like Josh Wiggins can get the power down, you know, and kind of go away from the two-car racing team car towards the end of the two-car racing team stint to see if he has the same momentum now that he has a bit of clean air in front of him. There's not too much behind him as well, so he can just get the hammer down and really build that gap towards the final slash and dash.
Yeah, 18-second pit stop from the two-pack racing team there in second place. So I'm pretty sure that information would have got back to the RD Simsport 4 team. And it's going to be interesting to see when they decide to pit, whether to go all the way to the end of the fuel and then do that little bit of splash and dash, or, you know, maybe pit in the next couple of laps just to cover off any of the move that two-part racing is. But I think the point that you made is the fact that he's got a bit of clear air in front of him. He is starting to come onto the back end of the GT3 cars, which I think he will probably catch coming around this lap 100R coming down into the hairpin in turn number 6. So it may be that the next lap that they're possibly looking at pitting, but it's going to be interesting to see as you see a couple of the cars in front of him pit as well. So he's managed to gain that one position from the organisation coming in for the pit stop. So that's one less GT3 car for the RD SimSport 4 team to make the thingy. So here we go. RD SimSport drive through for avoidable contact. So here we go. 19.6 seconds is that lead for the Asinian Racing Future team. He is going to lose that position, first position that he's been in from pretty much the get-go.
I would like to know. Yeah, I would like to know what that actually. Obviously, we saw a little bit of replay there, but I don't think that was the actual incident that would have been the cause of it. I mean, surely no. It was only a light tap at the rear end. I mean, of course, I'm all for Stewards being very aggressive, but yeah, just see if that was actually the incident that caused the crashes. We talk about crashes as well. Static adrenaline go from bad to worse with no rear wing on that car anymore. So he's going to let that back to pit lane as safely as he can, but yeah, that's not gone very well at all for the static adrenaline car and David Nelson there. So interesting to see what happened to leave the car in that kind of state. I believe it would have been an exit of turn 10, spin on the grass, and then straight into the wall on the right hand side of driver's view. But yeah, that is very much crabbing towards the end of the pit lane there. Let's have a look at what happened here. So yeah, as I said, we're coming through turn 10, went a bit too wide on the left hand side into the grass and spinning right into the wall on the right hand side into the grass, spins and backs it up right into the wall, and there it is.
There's the back end gone on that car. It's lucky you don't have to pay for these damages you do in these cars, because you'll get a very expensive hobby, isn't it? You can see the back left of that tyre pretty much at 45-degree angle, so we'll be exceptionally good at turning right, but left, as you can see, it's not very good at all. So David just nursing that back. Hopefully they've still got their fast repair. If not, I think that might be a game. Watch the organisation pro there in P9th, sort of losing it in no man's land. 5 laps down from the lead, 7 laps down from 2 laps down from static. We just see the static. Was that same corner?
Same corner, turn 10 exit, and the suspension's broken. Yeah, that's the front right suspension gone as well on that car. Yeah, it seems that turn 10's taking a lot of victims today. Well, this could be very interesting to see if we can limp him back to pit lane.
It's just the worst feeling ever, isn't it? After
it is.
This long into an endurance race, a slight mistake, and if you haven't got that fast repair, it's like, oh, what kick in the teeth, isn't it? So we'll sort of see. You can see the static adrenaline in the pits. So let's have a look. 30, they are in the stall now, so it'll be interesting to see if they got a fast repair or used it earlier on. I would imagine they would have used it probably earlier on, a lot of these teams, if they didn't uncheck it, because that's probably the biggest annoying factor, isn't it? Is if you forget to uncheck that fast repair and you repair some real light damage and then you have a big incident. That's always a kick in the teeth as well. Maybe they could improve that a little bit, that someone on the screen says, do you want to use your fast repair?
Okay, so here is RD SimSport now in the pits to serve their drive-through. So the gap is now 18 seconds. It's going to obviously come down rapidly as they're moving through the pit lane now, as we see on our timing screen to the right-hand side. Asinian Racing Future comes through and overtakes RD SimSport for the lead of the race. So that is a lead change in MDH for the first time in a very, very long while. I reckon Asinian Racing Future is going to be very, very happy with that sight. But yeah, now they're actually falling behind the number 2 car there. RD SimSport falls behind RD SimSport 2 to fall into 3rd place there. So that drive-through penalty that they received for an incident that I'm still not too sure of what actually caused it is now put them 10 seconds off the lead.
Definitely is. I mean, that is a game changer. For one momentary lapse of concentration for the RD SimSport guys has really cost them the win here today. They were out and out the best team here today, but you know, that's motorsports, isn't it? You know, and Asinian Racing Future have been handed the golden ticket for the race win. We've currently got just over 15 minutes of this race left. 8 seconds is a gap back to RD SimSport 2, 10 seconds back to RD SimSport. So RD SimSport are really going to have to push on and work together as a team to try and pull back the race win here over Obsidian Racing Future. So it's all change at the top of the LMDH over a drive-through penalty for RD Sim Sports, who were out and out the drivers of this race. But just shows how easily it can change. And like we said earlier on, Owen, it's never over until that checkered flag drops.
Yeah, indeed. It's yeah, of course, it's in Racing Future with one in the car. I reckon he's going to be very happy after that mistake that he made, of course, after the pits. You know, he had roughly about a 7-second gap behind the RD Sim Sport car when they emerged out the pit lane. Then had a bit of a trip over turn 15, went over the soft curves and spanned the rear of the car round. Lost about another 10 seconds. So yeah, they're going to be quite happy with seeing their lead come back into their hands, or now into their hands. And yeah, RD Sim Sport, both cars quite far away behind. I would like to say the same thing, or it's not over until the checker flag comes out, or it's not over till it's over, but there is only roughly about 14 minutes left of the race with the 8-second gap to catch, or 9-second gap to catch. Is it possible? With a miracle, yes. On paper, possibly not.
No, definitely not. I think it's going to be quite tall order to be able to play. You can see it coming down like 7.8, but then you get the cars stuck behind the GT3. This is where more mistakes can be made when you're pushing this hard, because obviously they'll be kicking themselves that they got that drive-through penalty. So trying to push hard to rectify that, and that's where more mistakes can happen. We're just looking further back if there's any battling on track. It looks like there's a little battle going on for P9th. This class is up between Robert Prescott here and the team Brake Fade, so having a bit of a battle. You've got Robbie Prescott here in the Porsche and Brian in the Audi here, coming around the last corner. But these two are locked in a battle here for 9th place overall on track. So a little bit of battling towards the end of it as the Porsche is trying to fight a little bit there with the LMD. So I don't know where it got that little bit of a streak of adrenaline there to get that speed to be getting up onto the back end of them. But we've got a little bit of a gap now as Robbie Prescott in the marginally above average sim races over the team break. And looking further back up the field, we've got a battle here for P6 on track between Penguin RC Simulation and Can-Am Racing. Can-Am Racing in the Lamborghini on the outside, not really fighting too much with the Penguin RC Simulation team at P6. That's a relatively easy pass for the BMW.
Yeah, indeed. I don't think Can-Am wanted to fight that one too much. Again, they might have their splash and dash to do, looking at the lap times and the strategy. Actually, it doesn't seem that likely that they're going to do it. I think they're all done on strategy now. So yeah, they just didn't want to fight that one too much. Interesting though, I would have thought that one a little bit harder, you know, for an extra position to gain the championship. But yeah, fair enough. They let that one through and try and take that one to the very end. But what is interesting as well to see is the LMDH lead not really dented too much. Again, I saw it come down to about 7 seconds, being from 8 seconds beforehand. So it has definitely come down by some way. But yeah, I'm still holding out hope for a little bit of an LMDH battle at the end. You know, being an LMDH driver myself, I'd like to see it all to at the very end. But yeah, it's likely. But yeah, going back onto RD Sim Sport 4, their two-ply racing team behind them now to 10 seconds. So before the pit stop was around 3 to 4 seconds. Josh Wiggins have very much got the hammer down and increased that lead by a comfortable margin towards the end. So all he's got to do is keep that car in a comfortable place and take it towards the checkered flag.
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, clearly watching the stream there and listening to our words of wisdom about getting 3 seconds and now pushed it out to around about 10 seconds. So yeah, the commentators will take a little bit of the glory for the race when they're RDC. So now doing a great job. Literally saw the gap was closing. Decided, you know, I need to start putting in some decent lap times here. There may have been a slight issue because that gap has grown pretty quickly back from two-pack racing in second place. But yeah, obviously saw the hazard coming up that they were gaining on them and literally pushed that gap out to 9.8 seconds. And I think that's probably going to be a little bit too big for Jose Carrera there in two-pack racing to close that gap down and probably resigning to the fact that he's going to be in second place. But that's a great day at the office, up 4 places is the two-pack team for that second place over there. But there's been a lot of issues in that GT3 cars falling by the wayside. I was just looking back at Imperial Motorsports, and they've actually pitted 4 times now, so their earlier pit stop, and I suppose that's the risk with trying to go a little bit early, is that if you get caught up later on with any incidents that may occur, that it really puts paid to your strategy of trying to pit early. But at the moment, down in P8 is the Imperial Motorsports, a lap down from the leader. Just merely going on his own way, and that earlier pit stop strategy doesn't look like it has paid off for the Imperial Motorsports. Having pitted 4 times, with the rest of the field pitted 3 times.
Yeah, indeed. Seems like, as you said, all the strategy work has all kind of worked itself out and paid off for some teams here and there. But yeah, now it's just all for a dash straight to the line again. Just under 10 minutes to go here for the final stages of this race here at Fuji International Speedway. And yeah, a great day for Obsidian for sure. A lucky day for them as well. Just all they got to do is keep it clean, keep it calm, and keep it smooth to the very end of the checkered flag. And same for Tempest Sport. They've had no real issues at all throughout the rest of the race today. And they've had a really comfortable lead of pretty much over 20 seconds for the entirety of the 2-hour mark as well. So yeah, great job by them as well. I love this Sport 4 coming from a little bit of a struggle after the first or second hour or so when they were in P4, really struggling to make some groundwork for them, and now having a comfortable lead of just over 8 seconds. So yeah, great day in the office for some drivers here. Not so much for others, but that's all part of the learning curve.
It definitely is. But for the neutral, it's good if it finishes this, because that means the Obsidian Racing Future and the RD Sim Sports will be on equal points. Satellite Racing, as Dave mentioned, they are probably the team to beat. I remember them from season 2, exceptionally quick in that LMP2. That's obviously one out in Daytona, not here today. I'm not sure if there's, David, if you're there, if there's a drop round in this championship. If not, that could really put paid to Satellite Championship hopefuls for a 3rd season in a row. But they will certainly be at the top of the lists coming out into the next round in Le Mans on the May 21st, so 2 weeks time. Go to Le Mans, where these cars are very much at home with, so that's going to be interesting. But for the neutral, it's going to be a good finishing where it makes it super close at the top of the standings between the teams up there, and that's what you want to be as a neutral, I suppose, is making sure that it's nice and tight, so it takes it down to sort of like a grandstand final round fling for the championship.
Yeah, for sure. And again, it's still very early stages in this championship as well. So a 3rd place, again, from what RD Sim Sport it could have been. I mean, sure that they'll probably be very angry with their position at the end of this race of what could have been. But yeah, still very early doors, as you said, equal on points going into the 3rd round for both of them. So yeah, still a lot to play for. So it's not the end of the world for them. But yeah, I don't suppose they're going to be too happy at the very end of the interviews when we possibly have a chat with most of these drivers today. But yeah, going back onto Pneumatic Motorsports Blue, they've had, again, as you said, with the neutrals, just a very calm race. Not much to really talk about with these guys here, apart from just they've been lugging in lap times and yeah, showing a decent performance up there in P4.
Yeah, they are. There's always something to say for the consistent drivers in a team. Obviously, like you said, not really been in the thick of it, but a strong P4 finish for them on the cars, 11 seconds ahead of We Too Fast Racing, who have had an issue. CMS Racing.com Pro have had an issue. Penguin RC have had an issue. So the 3 cars behind them have all had issues at some point in this race, and they seem to be out on their own, just merrily going along and picking up 3 positions as they go through. So up 3 positions are the Pneumatic Motorsport Blue team, as we currently look at Jack Chrissy of We Too Fast Racing, 5th overall. I'm just having a look at the standings. Where are they in the standings? They are currently 6th in the standings, so some valuable points for them, and hopefully move them up the standings. But Pneumatic Motorsports as well did quite well out in Daytona, finishing 5th overall, so a 5th and a 4th. It's not a bad day at the office in a championship that is very competitive with some extremely fast drivers in it.
Yeah, for sure. And again, I think the round that's most anticipated, at least from my side, would be Watkins Glen. I mean, that round obviously being a very, very fast flowing track, but also a track where traffic comes into a big factor into the race. So yeah, just to see how these guys manage the traffic, use it to their advantage strategy wise, and yeah, see who can be the quickest out of the guys there for that round. But yeah, still very early doors. Again, as I said before, some people won't be too happy with the result here today, but I suppose there'll be others that are a bit more excited than others on the result. As we see RD Simsport coming in for a final splash and dash here, I don't think this will affect their chances at all at a P2 much, as they come into the box there for a little bit of a splash and dash, only 4 minutes to go. Up on the jacks is interesting.
Maybe made a mistake and checked the tyres. You can see the back wheels spinning. He's probably thinking, oh no, what have I done?
Yeah, okay, I think they should be safe. I think they should be fine to the rest of the field there. Yeah, there doesn't seem to be many. Yeah, I mean, P3s come around 10-15 now, so they're more than fine. Probably go for the fastest lap. I would do the same.
I don't know if there's points for fast lap. It's like Formula 1 there. I don't know.
Just for the pride.
Just for the pride, I got the fastest lap.
Yeah.
The lowest fuel, but yeah, RD Simsports 3 there, comfortably going into the pits, coming back out into second place. Had no chance really of catching the Tempest Simsport team, who've been the class of the day in the LMP2 field. So just deciding on the air of caution, change a couple of tyres, get a splash and dash with plenty of fuel, and cementing that second place on the grid. So a great day racing there for RD Simsport 3. Just having a look, see if we've got any battling. It's pretty much all sort of neutralised down the field. No real close battling out on track. Joining back up. Oh, hello.
That was close. Oh my god, the leaders almost. Well, I think they definitely did need to change some underwear after that one, but yeah, that was very, very close towards the end there. Oh my god.
Yeah, you certainly don't want to be taking yourself out, and that's the leader of the LMP2 class, I believe, as well. Tempest Simsport there, getting sort of a heart attack moment coming into the last 3 minutes of this race. So around about 2-3 laps maximum that these drivers will have to contend with to get to that checkered flag, and nothing worse than getting taken out with that little amount of time to go in the race. So could have been a heart-stopping moment, but luckily no damage was done in the end, apart from, like you said, maybe some different coloured underwear from a couple of the teams. But yeah, it's winner in Tempest Simsport. 2 minutes left, 2.5 minutes left. So yeah, 2 laps left of this track to go for these races before the end of this 3-hour marathon, and it's probably been a war of attrition as well. You know, on the longer courses there's less turns and you're on the straights more, so you can take a little bit of a breather. Around this track it's probably relentless that you know you can't have a little bit of a break. I suppose the only break you can have is down the start-finish line, but if you're battling it with another competitor, it's not a lot of rest time during this 3-hour race. So the drivers are probably quite exhausted, and a few of them may be joining back pain and eye strain racing with issues at the end of this race.
Yeah, like everyone should change their team name to that. I think it's very relatable to the race today. But yeah, it's been a very good day for most of these guys as well. I mean, yeah, as we saw, just getting intel from David as well, what happened to the RDC Sport car to get that drive-through penalty. Apparently there was an issue with a prototype got into the back of the GT3 car, which we saw, and then obviously that GT3 car submitted request. Live stewards determined it was avoidable contact. So yeah, there was the moment of contact that we saw with the RDC Sport car as the white checkered flag, the white flag is being waved by the flagman there to signify the final lap of the race for these guys out on track there. And yeah, it doesn't seem to be too much of an issue or threat to most of these guys' position on the track. This is going to be quite a comfortable way to the end for most of these guys towards the very end.
Yeah,
Apart from Can-Am Racing, I think, actually, who is battling for position, if I'm not mistaken.
They are indeed, with Imperial Motorsports here. So there's Imperial Motorsports just up in front, the one that did the different strategy. Didn't quite work out for him, but still good one. Still top 7 position at the moment. Can-Am Racing trying to chase it down, but sort of been impeded by a few of the other drivers around them. Is that the back mark? Was that 13?
I believe it was. Yes. As we see Obsidian Racing Future come around the final treacherous corner of this Fuji circuit. We've seen a lot of mistakes happen there for a few drivers today, even Obsidian Racing themselves getting it all wrong, but they come through after a drive-through penalty for the RDC Sport car to take the checker flag and win round 2 of the CMS iRTES series, and takes the checker flag and wins a Fuji International Raceway. So yeah, very, very great race for them, Obsidian Racing Future there to win by 5.6 seconds, a win that I didn't think was in their grasp, but they definitely got a hold of towards the end with the RDC Sport drive-through there, and they are now level on points, as we see Tempest Sport as well come through to take the checker flag by over 1 minute and 7 seconds. A very dominant display there by Tempest Sport at Fuji here today to take that win by such a comfortable lead, and yeah, very good job by them two drivers as well.
Yeah, it definitely is. And looking further back, the RD Sim Sport 4, 8.4 seconds. So pretty much the results, apart from that incident for the LMDH class with this RD Sim Sport having to go through the pit lane, it was relatively a muted last 15 minutes of the race. Everyone just trying to make sure they secure the points that they currently have. But it's certainly interesting at the top of the LMDH, and yeah, it's never over till it's over as we watch RD Sim Sport 4 just flicking out before they come over the pole. There we go, they're back on track now, can take the flag.
I was just saying, imagine that, just come out to the checker flag and then boom, your internet goes, typical sim racing things.
Oh, I think I've seen that before, that it's happened not on endurance races, on a couple of sprint races coming up to the line, but yeah, not an ideal position to be in, but luckily came back on and took the race win 8.8 seconds ahead of the Two-Pack Racing team in second place. So great day's racing in what has been a very tricky track.
Yeah, for sure. And again, RD Sim Sport, I think the GT3s have shown the closest race that we've seen here today so far, especially towards the end. Yeah, RD Sim Sport coming back from 4th with that little bit of a weird pit stop moment, and you know, a little bit of a tangle with a few of the cars down to turn 1. But they definitely showed their true force and came back strong towards the final stint there and came through to win. Same with Obsidian Racing Future as well. They still showed some serious pace, and again, I've mentioned it before, but the I suppose the senior team of Obsidian Racing having a very, very strong LMDH program, and again, the Obsidian Racing Future, didn't know the name Future there as well, showing the future of Obsidian Racing of what could be. So yeah, great race by all today. It was a joy to watch. Yeah, it was good fun to commentate over.
Definitely was. We'll just wait for the last remaining cars to finish, and we'll take you through your classified results here at Fuji Raceway. So, as if by magic. So in the LMDH class, Obsidian Racing Future are your winners, 5.6 seconds ahead of RD Sim Sport 2. RD Sim Sport, after that drive-through, get third place, 8.7 seconds behind. Pneumatic Motorsport Blue, a great day at the office for them, finishing in 4th. 5th place was We Too Fast Racing with Penguin RC Simulation LMDH in 6th place. CMS Racing.com Pro in 7th with SimHQ Motorsport Orange in 8th. The Organisation Pro in 9th, and rounding out your top 10, which a day to probably forget, 20 laps down, is Static Adrenaline, but at least they still finished. Heading over to the LMP2 class, Tempest Sim Sport with a commanding win in the end, 1 minute 7 seconds ahead of RD Sim Sport 3 in second place. In third place, SimHQ Motorsport Red, 1 lap down, 100 Force in 4th place. Longhorn Racing 2 in 5th. Blue Shell Racing in 6th with Sim Republic SR3 in 7th. The Organisation Pro Am and the Organisation Amateur Team 8th and 9th, with probably a day to forget for them at the office. That rounds out your LMP2 class. Over to the GT3s and the winners, but RD Sim Sport 4 obviously ran out a lead in the first stint, lost it sort of in the second stint, but got it back in the first stint. 8.8 seconds over Two-Pack Racing Team there in second. The rest of the field a lap or more down. In third place was Sim Racing PR. In 4th place, Tempest Sim Sport. 5th place, and they'll probably be over the moon with that, is Back Pain and Eye Strain Racing Team. In 6th place, Penguin RC Simulation. 7th, Imperial Motorsports. Obviously, the early pit stop strategy didn't pay off for them here today, but don't give up, guys. It'll all come right in the end. In 8th place, Can-Am Racing. In 9th place, marginally above average Sim Racers. 10th was Team Break Fade. 11th was Valhalla Motorsports. 12th was Flying Line SGs. With 13th was CMSRacing.com Ghosts. In 14th place, Sim Republic with 15th, Wild Juice Racecraft. The organisation in 16th with Two Brothers Motorsports in 17th. And a one and only retirement, Long Haul Racing down in 18th. So great day at the office for the winners. You know, a marginal one there for Obsidian Racing Future. But it's all about being there at the end of the day. Yeah,
indeed. And again, one team that I'd like to speak to straight away, if that's okay, is iRTES Sinsport, to get their reaction on obviously the race today and what happened with them. So if you don't mind, I'll bring them on into the commentary booth and have a quick chat with them, as we have both Oscar and Archie, both from iRTES Sinsport here. Yeah, guys, great race today. Exceedingly good pace from both of you as well, with a fantastic qualifying at the very start as well. What's your reaction to the race today? And yeah, talk us through what your thoughts were.
Yeah, thank you, Owen. Really gutted, to be honest, because we were leading for so long, and we get that penalty with the Audi, I think it was. I do want to just be honest and say I'm not very happy with how we got a drive-through for very minimal contact. So I don't really know why, but yeah, we did lose the win because of that, but we did still get the podium, so it's good points overall. So still happy about that.
Yeah, indeed. As you said, it's still good points. Again, you go into this next round of the series level on points with Obsidian Racing as well. So yeah, it's still a very long round of the championship to go. But yeah, talk us through the strategy if you can as well. Like, what was your main aim with the strategy? Of course, with the multiple pit stops you had there. I think it was 3 pit stops to make there as well. So yeah, talk us through your strategy gain of what the race played out to be.
Our strategy basically involved Archie going long because he was better on the fuel saving, and then me just sort of sprinting to the end as I wasn't so good in that area. So yeah, Archie managed to stretch out multiple laps ahead of most others, I think, and then it meant I didn't have to worry at all about fuel saving for my 2 stints, which would have put us in a fine position to go ahead and take the win. I think we were 22 seconds ahead before things started to go haywire, but that's how it goes, and we managed to still come home in 3rd with the sister car in 2nd, and there's another podium for RD in LMP2 and in GT with the win, so it was a good result overall for the team. But I can't say that we're happy with the outcome of that penalty. It was quite disappointing, but as you said, it's on to the next one, and hopefully we don't get penalised like that again.
Yeah, for sure. You guys showed very pretty much a dominant performance all race today. So yeah, congratulations for that. And again, not the result you wanted, but a good one nonetheless. And yeah, hopefully we can see the same momentum for you guys into the next round.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
So there was RD Simsport there getting the 3rd place overall in that LMDH category. But let's bring in the winners overall. So we got Joanne join us in from Obsidian Racing Future. Joanne, take us through that race. Obviously, we were watching intently because at the end of the first stint, you were around about 6 seconds behind the RD Simsport. You had a bit of an issue coming around, I believe it was turn 15, where you spun the car, which gave them like a 12-second. And they went further out than that. And then right at the end, was you aware that they got a drive-through penalty, which enabled you to take that 1st place? Just take us through the ups and downs of that race from your team's perspective.
Hello, guys. Thank you for having me here. Yeah, that stint, like I was so nervous because it's the first time in a while that I'm racing like in a league. So I was nervous. The first corner, I called tires. I spun out, and then I think that we maybe had a bit more pace, maybe, but they were managing the traffic a lot better. RD Sinsport, and then at the end of the stint, I was having a bit of trouble. But I remember that we were in the straight the start, and I saw they seemed for what was black flag like in the chat, and I was like, what? Sorry, I didn't know what happened. So yeah, it was quite a surprise. And well, it's good to be finally back here and winning, because we had quite a bad streak.
Definitely was. I mean, it seemed to be your Christmas has come early with that result and that win for
Yeah.
you guys. And
I think that sorry.
Yeah, no, go on.
No, yeah, that after that season where we had a bit of bad luck and a bit of like trouble ourselves with traffic, like this race winning because another person had trouble in traffic, it was like quite funny.
I mean, that's racing at the end of the day. It's never over
Yeah.
till that checkered flag drops. You know, you've got to constantly keep on pushing, because incidents like that can happen. It is the world of racing, and with having the faster cars and the slower cars, it's inevitable that there is going to be slight issues on that. Just talk us through how you were able to manage the LMP2s and then obviously the lot slower GT3 cars. How was it out on track being in the LMDH against them two slower cars, and how were you able to pick your way through the traffic?
Yeah, so LMP2 was quite hard because the last sector, like the part where the chicken used to be, because they are lighter, they are almost as quick or even quicker on the slower corners. So it was quite hard. If you were behind an LMP2 in that sector, you lost a lot of time. But luckily we had Gabi, our engineer, was on the vocal saying, okay, now you have this lap traffic here, and we were pushing or saving fuel and energy depending on how far away or how close and in which turn we were finding traffic. So yeah, thanks to him was the traffic management basically.
Yeah, it definitely is. I'm just looking at your results from the first race. So that'd be a fourth place for Daytona, obviously a first place here. Looking at the points, that will give you equal points with RD Simsports at the top of the standings. So it's been a good day at the office, and it bodes for the neutrals that we've got a close battle in the LMDs at the top of the field.
Yeah, it's good to have rivals so close, and well, we will try to be closer on pace next race.
So next race, talking about it, is Le Mans in 2 weeks' time. How are you looking forward to that one? Obviously, these cars are made for the Le Mans setup on the track, so it should be a good track for this car.
Yeah, and Le Mans is one of my favorite tracks, so I will probably be at least training for it. So yeah, I think traffic is a bit easier on Le Mans, I think. So yeah, we will be there ready to try to win again.
Well, I mean,
the first place in the championship.
Yeah, we'll have to call you the Cats now, because you've obviously used one of your 9 lives up, but you still got another 8 to go. So we'll see how much more luck you can get in the in the future rounds. But congratulations on your race win, a really hard-fought one. Obviously, sort of handed to you at the end there, but you've still got to be in it to win it. But before we let you go, mate, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
To all the team, to again Gabi, who was an engineer, Rafa, my teammate, Antonio, who is the one who raced Daytona, who is on vacation, and Jan, the new member, who is going to debut soon, hopefully.
Well, definitely, mate. And by the sounds of it, it's your very first win in this season or any other season. So congratulations on that again, and look forward to seeing you out in Le Mans next week or in 2 weeks' time.
Thank you.
Cheers.
See ya. Bye.
There was Obsidian Racing Team. Got a bit of fortune at the end there to get the race win, but you certainly got to be in it to win it. So who have you got standing by there, Owen?
I am trying to look at the team names as well. So I believe we have, let me just check my list here. We have RD Simsport 3 in the GG3 as well, and Jose, as he joins us in the commentary booth. Jose, good race today from you guys as well. A solid P2 at the end there for your car in GT3. Talk us through your race and how it went.
Yeah, I mean, even before starting, me and my partner, we knew this was merely a tire strategy race. So he was the fastest in all the practices that we did. So he started and he got 2 out of the 3 stints, and then the target was to make the last set of tires as long as possible without taking too much pace. So I think that worked out for us at the end.
Yeah, for sure. It was good. It was very close to you, as you guys, especially as you saying, during the second stint, you got roughly about 3 seconds towards the end there as well. So yeah, talk us through your strategy in more detail if you can as well. So what you were thinking to combat all these spot ahead of you guys.
Yeah, so we were trying to fuel save because I think it was on our first stint, we had some damage that we had to basically get into the pits one lap before that we wanted. So that kind of threw us off. So once we got into the last stint, we tried to save as much fuel as we could. And then hopefully we were almost expecting for the guys who ended P1 to see if they maybe underfueled and we maybe catch them towards the end, but it wasn't the case. Ultimately, the strategy worked for us because I think we started P6 and we ended P2, so ultimately it worked.
Yeah, for sure. Very good result. You guys obviously climbing up 5 positions up the order today in today's race. So yeah, very solid race for you guys as well. And yeah, anyone you'd like to shout out, give a quick thank you to on the broadcast?
Oh yes, for sure. Yeah, so shout out to our team, TPRT. We're from Puerto Rico, so we're super glad that we're racing here. There's another Puerto Rican team here, so it's always fun racing in CMS. It's always tough and entertaining, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much as well. And yeah, good race again for you guys, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks.
All right, see ya.
There was two-pack racing there. Second place in the GT3. Let's get the winners of that hotly contested GT3 race in. We've got Josh Wiggins in here from RD Sim Sport 4. Josh, welcome to the booth, mate. That was probably made harder than it should have been. Obviously, your first stint, you were out in front. You had time in hand. What happened in that first pit stop to put you sort of into third or fourth position? And then you had to really fight back, but I mean, it was a great fight back on yourself, but how hard were you pushing at the end of that race?
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, towards the end, not too hard, but I think the Tempest SimSport car were ahead of us coming into the last stint, and unfortunately had an incident of some description. And then from there, we were aware of Courier behind us, and we were kind of keeping an eye on when they were pitting, so knew that they'd have to pit before us, so they'd have a longer pit stop, older tyres when it came to the end, because from all of our testing, we knew it was going to be we expected it to be quite a tyre limited race. In terms of what put us behind, I think there was an incident with a back marker, unfortunately, off the track. Looked a bit worse for wear, and we just lost out there. That's all it was.
It's fine margins, really, these racing. You mentioned there about the practice you guys put in for these races. So you basically, it's a 3-hour race that everybody gets to view live on YouTube. But just give a flavour to the viewers of how many hours of practices you put into these rounds.
A lot, more than I'd probably care to admit. Fuji's a track that I personally haven't. I don't think I've ever raced before. Certainly not on iRacing. So there was a lot of time put into learning the track. Because it hasn't been in the official calendars recently, there's no sort of readily available setup. So we've done a lot of setup work as well. And yeah, from there, very early on, like I say, we discovered that we were expecting quite a tyre limited race, so it was planning a strategy around that to leave tyres at the end. I think in one of the practice sessions that we did a stint, tried to work out how long we'd have to take the tyres on sort of a half fuel, and got black flagged before the end of it because the tyre tread was at 0%. So yeah, very concerning working around that.
I mean, that's an interesting thing you make there, is obviously the new tyre model that iRacing have put in. Do you find it adds a lot more realism to the racing rather than doing an endurance and just keeping the same set of tyres on for like 4 hours worth of racing? Do you find it's a lot more immersive, having to worry about your tyres a lot more than what you used to? And then on the flip side is that iRacing have put in that you can change tyres and put fuel in at the same time, so gives a little bit, takes with one hand but gives with another in that respect. How do you find the new tyre model has sort of affected your race and the way that your team approaches the race?
Oh, it's I certainly think from a realism point of view, it seems more real. I've obviously never had the privilege of driving one of these cars in real life to know what they're like, and I'd probably be too afraid to push them anywhere near their capabilities. In terms of bringing in tyres that only last one stint, I think it's taken an element of strategy away. On tyre models a few years ago, you could double stint, but you'd probably be a bit tight towards the end. So there was a real risk versus reward there, and an option to weigh up. Obviously, that's now gone, and as you say, you can refuel at the same time as a tyre change, which ultimately I think just gives more closer racing, more time on track, less time sat stationary in the pit box.
Yeah, it definitely is. But having a large team around you with lots of wealth of experience probably really pays off when you were like saying, getting the setup of the car good. And it certainly seems to be paying off for yourselves. That's 2 from 2 at the moment. So you've certainly got that bullseye on the back of your car that the rest of that GT3 field will be chasing down in 2 weeks' time in Le Mans. How are you looking forward to that round?
Yeah. I mean, it's Le Mans. What more can you say? It's a great track for racing. One that I've always enjoyed racing and had terrible luck at. So that mark on our back might be quite achievable from the other teams going into the next round. But we're going to do the same as we do. We'll prep, we'll work together as a team, and we'll come out swinging.
Well, whatever you're doing, it seems to be working in a great formula at the moment. That's 2 from 2 from yourself. Congratulations on your win here at Fuji. Considering you've never driven this course, probably, or this track until the vast amount of training you do. Before we let you go, mate, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to?
Just to my teammates, Steve, who I raced with today. He did an excellent job with the first 2 stints. Rob, the owner of RD, for sort of organising and getting teams together and building that environment where we can all share and develop. So yeah, I suppose they're my shout outs.
Brilliant. Well, congratulations on your second win in this season 3, and look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks' time in Le Mans. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Take care.
So there's RD SimSport 14, the dominant GT3 team here today at Fuji. Who have you got stood by with yourself, Owen?
I wanted to bring in Jared Bridwell here, finishing P2 for LMP2 here for the RD SimSport number 3 car. So Jared, good stuff today. P2 obviously a podium place, very good stuff as well. Talk us through your race today and like strategy calls and what was the main thing in your head that you wanted to succeed at this race.
Early on, we kind of made the call just to drive flat out, not fuel save, and I luckily, we didn't have much pressure from behind, and I think if we did, we could have probably lost a position with that last pit stop. But really, it was just to minimize mistakes and just optimize our position.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Of course, for an endurance race, I saw at the end there as well. You boxed it with around about like let's say 10 or 5 minutes to go, and it seemed like you changed tires as well. Was that just was that splash and dash towards the end, or was that actually a thing to go for a little bit of a faster slap towards the end, or what was that towards the end there?
Oh no, it was just a little splash and dash. I saw it jack the car, but I opted out of tires because it was been 5 minutes. But yeah, I think if we did a little bit of fuel saving, we could have not done that last pit stop.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it makes perfect sense. Yeah. Did you? Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I was just gonna say happy with P2. Congrats to P1. I mean, they were flying. They were in a league of their own. So.
Yeah, for sure. It did look very, very tough out there with the 10% sport car out in front as well. And you guys held them well, especially throughout the start as well. And how was managing traffic throughout this track as well?
Honestly, it wasn't too bad. I thought it would be a little bit more difficult. Obviously, the last sector is a little weird. But I feel that it's high speed enough to where you can kind of pass around the outside. I think it's turn 6 or 7. That long right-hander.
Yeah.
That was pretty easy. That was a good spot to overtake. Yeah, the last sector is difficult, but not too bad. Not too bad.
That's good stuff. And obviously, in 2 weeks' time, we head over to Le Mans for the 3rd round as well. So, how are you and the team feeling for that one?
Oh, I'm so excited for it. I'm looking forward to it. It'll be a fun one.
Nice, that's all we like to hear. Thank you very much indeed, Jared, as well. If there's anyone like to give a shout out to on the broadcast, feel free to do that now.
I don't have any.
Fair enough, that's okay as well. But I'll leave you at that then, man. So yeah, congratulations again on P2 with a good bag of points there coming into the rest of the season, and yeah, best of luck for Le Mans in 2 weeks' time.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
So it was Jared there of RD Sim Sport 3 team in second place in the Ardell. And we've got one more interview now. It is Miguel of Sim Racer PR. Miguel, welcome to the booth, mate. P3 in that very competitive GT3 field. How was that race for you, mate?
Yeah, I would say it was a good race, even with the ups and downs. You know, dealing a lot with the situations with the GTP class that cost us a couple spots. Also, like a mid-butt on schedule, and that kind of put us behind. I think we had a good pace. The car was on pace to be fighting over there for the win. If it wasn't by those multiple issues that we had during the race, but overall, you know, it was a good race and good recovery after Daytona.
Yeah, it definitely is, and obviously getting another podium position, it's a great start to a championship to get yourself off on the right foot. Just talk us through, you know, the Lamborghini is not really a car that's used that much anymore. What was your thought process by choosing a Lamborghini for this season?
So I used to race in the previous CMS league for the GT3 Sprint Series, the Lamborghini. So at that point, it was kind of the top car, so we were driving that one. So we made the choice to go with the Lamborghini. But then as the last update they have been done in iRacing, you know, it has kind of put a little back compared to like the BMW or even the Mercedes. It's quite fast. I'm surprised not many people are using it here. So like a track like this one, you know, trying to catch the BMWs in those big straights, you know, it's kind of like a hard. So kind of thinking the fast sweeping curve to, you know, try to make as much as we can in that area of the pace and take advantage of the downforce in the Lamborghini compared to other cars.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, it's an interesting car. It's like your all-rounder. It's not excellent at any one particular thing. It's very much an all-rounded car, pretty much the same as like the Porsches. I would very much class the Lamborghini in that category, but it seems to be again another super competitive GT3 field. Obviously you've got to contend with trying to get the positions in your own class, but what's it like being on track with the LMP and now the even faster BMW LMDH?
Well, it's, in a track like this one, Daytona was, I think, a little bit more easy dealing with the fastest car, the GTP class, basically driving around to us. Here it was a different story. There is a lot of fast corners with different angle shapes. And like we have in this league tire limits, so we have to also like manage the pace and manage the tires. So some of these corners we have to get like a wide entry to don't kill the tires basically, and then have a good exit. And then dealing, you know, all these GTP class, they're fast, so they see that opening, so they're gonna go for it. Sometimes they go late because of the different line adjustments. So I know a lot of guys struggle a lot with that today around the fastest class, but you know, it's something that we had to also get used to and trying to deal with it around. So very interesting.
Yeah, it definitely is. And it's interesting to say about obviously the straight line speed of the Lamborghini is not as strong as say the Mercedes or the BMW. I suppose that's probably not something you want to be saying, considering you've probably got the biggest track next round out with the longest straights of Le Mans.
Yes, that will be a track. I think us in the Lamborghini we're gonna be falling behind probably because it's a very long straights at that track. I think Porsche and Mercedes and BMW are gonna be top cars in that track because of the top end speed. So we will see how we can adjust the setup. See if I at least maintain with those cars, you know, to in pace or at least close, you know.
Yeah, just make sure you keep in that slipstream. You lose that, that's probably when it's going to be a long day at the office. But obviously having a P4 in Daytona, a P3 here today keeps your championship hopes alive in that GT3 class. It's getting very congested at the top, which is for the neutral among us. It just promotes some great racing between the different cars and the different teams within that GT3 class. What's it like being under that sort of pressure at the top of the grid in a car that probably not a lot of people choose?
Yeah, I would say like if you look today's times during the qualifying, like a lot of the top 4 guys were like with less than a second together in terms of qualifying times. On race pace, everybody was right there, similar pace, everyone. So it's I think this class in this league is very competitive. A lot of good drivers over there. So like any small mistakes or issues that you may have on track, you're gonna pay hard, because you will lose a lot of ground with this competitive group of people that are racing.
Definitely is. It bodes well for the rest of the season to being all you drivers are so close together. But congratulations on your 3rd place here today at Fuji. Before we let you go, mate, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I would like to give thank you to the Sim Racing PR community, our sponsors, Don't Sell Your Machine Shop, and also the CMS group, and you guys for keeping this up and doing the live streams, for putting all this together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and look forward to seeing you out in 2 weeks' time in Le Mans, mate.
Thank you, guys. See you.
Thank you. So there was Miguel of Sim Racing PR. A little bit off the pace from the front too, but still some very strong points for the 3rd place. But that brings us to the end of this broadcast. Owen, what's your thoughts for the day?
Yeah, I mean, a very successful race by all involved, apart from a few incidents here and there with, of course, I think Satellite Endurance had a bit of or Adrenaline Story had a bit of a day to forget. But yeah, most drivers out there, it seemed to be a very comfortable race. Managed to traffic very well. Not many incidents here and there, apart from self-spins, of course, at the treacherous turn 10 and was the final corner at turn 16 as well. So, yeah, very good race by all. Was very fun to commentate over, and yeah, can't wait to see what happens in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, definitely is. That's the 21st of May, 3 hours around Le Mans for even more action. So if you've not put a thumbs up for the broadcast, then please do. If you've not subscribed, please click the subscribe button and click the bell for notifications. We go live many times during the week for pretty much every single car you could probably think of. But that is it here for round at Fuji, round number 2. A big thank you again to the main sponsors, Penguin RC and SimRacing247.com. So head over to them to see the wonderful gifts and extra stuff that you can get for your sim racing from the main sponsors of this. But that is it for tonight. Please join us in 2 weeks' time for Le Mans, which should be a very entertaining day. But from myself, Andy Thompson, from Owen Carroll beside me, and from Samuli Kulo, we will see you in 2 weeks' time. Good night.